control. Man, that looks great.
Jets! Oh my God, it's so beautiful. 78 degrees, Jets football, and we're winning. That's what's going on today. That's why everybody's so psyched. This isn't no happenstance. This is a guarantee, just like Joe Namath said. See that?
There are few things in life you cannot put a price on. Loyalty, tradition, fierce passion. Today is a gigantic family reunion because finally, they're back.
Stay there. You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets.
Yeah, Jets, Jets. What's up, everybody? GreenBean here. Welcome to the Thursday thick of it. I'm in a fantastic mood. I've been moving for what feels like 2 straight days. I had just a 3-hour trip, and it has lasted till about 2-3 hours ago. So I feel good that that's over. Maybe that's what it is. I'm in a great mood because Zach Wilson, our embattled, attacked, weather-beaten little rookie, has just won his 3rd Rookie of the Week championship belt. Yeah, I'm psyched about that. But before we get any further, I'm going to show you why I'm really in a good mood. It looks like Frankie has done something with his hair, and I can't wait to show you. Here he comes, Frankie from Flatbush. What's up, buddy? How you doing tonight?
Hey, GreenBean, good to see you. Indeed, I did do something with my hair. I got a brand new hair dryer, and I used it, and got a little volume going on.
Now, Frankie, do you use any product or anything like that? Is there a secret that you have?
Only for my beard. Now, you have, as you know, GreenBean, you have to take care of your beard. You can't just let it do whatever it wants. You got to take care of it. So you have to do a lot of things to keep your beard in good shape. But as far as my hair, I just let it go. I don't ever cut it. I don't do anything. But I thought I needed a hair dryer and I wanted to try it out, and this is what happened.
I love it. I noticed it. People think that we're just hanging out backstage for hours, chit-chatting, but we only had about 20 seconds before we started, right? So we didn't get into much at all. And the first thing I noticed, man, Frankie looks good tonight. Frankie did something. I don't know what it is.
Hey, you gotta experiment sometimes, and sometimes the experiments go awry.
They do. And Frankie, I have calyx in my beard, if you can imagine that. Numerous points throughout my life, like little young nurses that worked with me. Like I walk through the place, I'm the director, I think I'm this and that. And then they would say things. And this happened so many times. Like, I really like how there's little curlies in your beard. And I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't want that. Like I wanted to look, I want to look like General Lee over here. I got cute little swirls. So it's not easy to keep those at bay. So you're right. We do need to use product. I'll get into which products I use in the very near future, but I have a debate going on between companies, which ones are going to be the full-on supporter of GreenBean. So we'll see how that goes. I do use stuff, but I don't want to tell anybody what it is just yet. Maybe that hair dryer company, maybe we get them to get involved here, Frankie, because you look good, buddy.
All right, thanks. I appreciate that, GreenBean.
Let's say hello to some people in the chat. Matthias Simon, my old buddy from the greenhouse days, is in the chat. First, he wins. He wins the contest, the weekly contest that these guys get involved in. Thank you, Matt. It's good to see you. Racing Jason, Rusty Spooner. Rusty Spooner, man, I'm not sure if you picked up on him. He has some really good tips, and this happened last year too. He's got some, may I call them obscure sleeper picks
Oh yeah.
And I've looked at his guys before, and I found myself very impressed. And he's got some this year, and I imagine we may even get into some of those guys this year. That'll be cool. But Rusty's here, and I appreciate that. Look, he's talking about one right now. He says there's a good linebacker playing in the Vegas Bowl tonight, Leo. So that is the linebacker. We were talking about him, a 260-pound linebacker that maybe the Jets will pick up. That'll be nice. GreenBean is here. That's good. Joseph Schwert. What's up, Joe? Jets forever. Racing Jason, we said. David Goodstein, Big Green, Salty Nuts, Stud City. Everybody is here. This is great. Wayne is here. Follower of Christ, FOC, we like to call him. Kenobi Clone, Scott Wilson, SG31 Black. Everybody's here. Yo, indeed. Ron Mo Lake Luizo, the great extender of names. Mo Lake, Ron Luizo. So, Frankie, let me ask you, and hello to everybody else. I see Liberal Irishman in there, Christopher Merkovich, Kamal Agilero, and everybody else, Derek. But, Frankie, what do you think about this rookie? Bear with me. Hey, young lady, can you not smash things as hard as you possibly can? Like, try and be quiet, okay? We have a sandwich being made in what sounds like sounds like there are screws in the sinkerator. That's what it sounds like. But Zach Wilson won his third Rookie of the Week. And, you know, people have said numerous things about him. Very few of it has been a rough rock'em sock'em year for this young man, but he somehow has pulled out 3 Rookie of the Week titles, if you will. What do you attach to this? Any real value? Is it just, nothing, or do you think it's valuable?
Well, I think it is valuable. He's showing progress. I mean, that's what we all said we wanted in the beginning of the year, progress. In order to have progress, you have to start out poorly. If he started out like a house on fire and then ended terribly, people would be saying, what the hell is this? So, I mean, I think we should be happy that he started out the way you might expect he'd start out, especially playing against Phil Snow and Vic Fangio and Bill Belichick twice and all of that. And he learned his lessons and he didn't do too well. And then he was injured. Then he came back, was a little rusty, and he's been good ever since. And that's what you would want. It's exactly what you would want. And I've tried to show on my videos the context of Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields and Mac Jones and Davis Mills. Trey Lance hasn't been playing, but if you look at all those guys, they're pretty comparable. Some do a little, better. Some are a little worse, but the two who are most comparable in my book are Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson, because they went to the same situations. Teams that are starting over, down to the studs rebuild, number 1 pick, number 2 pick. That means you have the worst roster and the second worst roster. That's how you get those picks. And those are the guys, that's where they went. They have a whole new coaching staff, all of that. So talent depleted roster, new coaching staff. And you look at their numbers and they're almost identical. I mean, they're basically the same player in terms of yards per game, touchdowns per game, interceptions per game, completion percentage. They're basically doing the same, which tells me that probably they're going to be all right. They're probably going to be all right once they get the talent level around them a little bit higher.
Yeah. Well, and I like that. I think it's hard for, I think, particularly Jets fans. We happen to be just outside of Philly. We're the most intense batch of football fans, in my opinion, in the entire league. I mean, Philly, they're a different thing. They have a whole other level going on over there. None of it positive. But so we are an intense batch. And for us to kind of have that patience, especially after we just gave 3 patient years to Sam Darnold after being a 3rd overall pick, I do understand that it's hard. I get it. But what you just said paints a picture of somebody on the upward trend here. And I think that's important. Now, I've been in discussions with people on Twitter and Jetnation about the Rookie of the Week, meaning a little more than 0, because it's a fan voted thing. And if there's anything that we know about Jets fans, they're online. Whatever else you want to say about Jets fans, the one thing that is firmly entrenched, they are on the internet, man. Jets fans are out there. You go like this in the middle of some website somewhere and go, Jets suck. And there's 500 people like, screw you, buddy. I'll come to your house. Like, that's how it is with Jets fans. So when it comes down to the selected players, it is a fan vote. But my retort to that, and I'd like to just see how you feel about this. My retort is, we didn't pick the guys who are on the list. We didn't pick the 5 guys that had a week that was worthy enough of being even considered to be called the rookie of the week. And do you feel the same? Do you think it's like, all right, well, hey, look, yes, we voted him in. Yes, we're a passionate fan base. And when it comes down to it, even though we're yelling at him and saying he sucks, we showed up for him, but his name being on there is where the value is. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not the biggest fan base online. If you look at, for example, I took a look earlier in the year at the subreddit fan totals, like how many Patriot fans are part of the Patriots subreddit and how many are the Jets and how many are we're toward the bottom. We're not toward the top. The Patriots have the most. They have like 200,000, 300,000. The Jets, at the time I looked at it, we had like 50,000 or something very small. So if you just look at that as a microcosm of how many Jet fans are online, generally versus, in context of how many other team, fans are online, I don't think we're the biggest. I mean, we've been very unsuccessful the last 10 years. And those last 10 years have coincided with the rise of social media, the rise of fantasy football, the rise of Madden video game, more and more people getting into football, the rise of betting. And in those 10 years, we've been terrible, pretty much. I mean, we had 1 year where we had an above average offense in 2015, and that's it. And so in that time, all these other teams have been building up their online fan bases, and we really haven't. I mean, we're online like any other fan base, but I don't think it's super big. Like the Patriots are by and far and away the largest subreddit group. And so if anybody was going to vote for their people, it'd be the Patriots, and they have a rookie quarterback. So
yeah. And we have outvoted Mac Jones himself in a head-to-head more than I think at least once this year. So I'm with you too, man. I mean, I think there are obviously always two sides to every argument. Okay, always. And the truth is when you boil this down to its purest form, we had a guy who's young, came from Salt Lake City, came to a very, very poorly managed and developed and created roster and organization for that matter. We're at the very, very early stages, the beginning of building anything. He comes here and he started out, I mean, in the roughest of circumstances. Mac Jones is over there throwing a few dump off passes and the team is running around and everybody's saying, look how great and calm he looks. Well, he has, while Zach Wilson is running around with literally the most sacks, most hurries, most pressures, and the most drops in the NFL the first month of the season. So the fact that he is calmed down, the fact that he is having numerous games, 3 in a row now without an interception. I hate doing that because I feel unlucky, and I will knock on the wood for that to whatever that does to combat the bad luck I'm in. But the truth is that he has looked better, and like you said earlier, that's really all we hoped for this season. Yes, we wanted the playoffs. Yes, we wanted the Cinderella season. Yes, I'm with it. But Zach, as Adam S. is saying, is improving, and he's improving more right now than Trevor Lawrence because those numbers are equal, but Trevor has had, at least where touchdowns are concerned, versus interceptions and turnovers, the earlier part of his season was better than the latter part of his season, and Zach is the opposite, which I think is better.
Well, and let me make this point too. We have this thing called boycott the beat.
Yeah.
And there's a reason we had that, because our beat is terrible and they are trying to influence Jet fans to hating the Jets. That's basically what they like to do because that gets the clickbait. We also have people on the broadcast like Spiro Dudis, whatever his name is, the play-by-play guy. Zach Wilson makes a perfect throw in time, perfect timing, right to Croft, right as he's running a perfect throw, 12-yard gain, first down, beautiful. And Spiro Dudis, whatever his name is, says, oh, that was a wobbly pass. Look at that wobbly pass. Pass. Terrible. What are you talking about? Wobbly pass. It was perfect. He got it to the guy exactly in time. He catches it, gets a first down, and you're talking about a wobbly pass? Get the hell out of here with that wobbly pass crap. And
who is Spiro Dudis? I don't even know what that word is.
Yeah, who is he? Why is he doing play-by-play? Nobody's ever heard of this moron. And yet he's doing play-by-play for our games. because we stink. That's why. But we don't get the good broadcasters.
No,
But,
well, hey, look, you know what? It's like Salah said, and this is one of the reasons. Like when you look at the guys running our organization, right? Like we've had a series of characters, from the Bill Parcells to the Rich Kotite, the Rex Ryan to the Adam Gase, and everybody in between. We've had all kinds of characters, but very rarely do we see someone that comes out and just says things that are kind of appropriate and just nails the point in the reality of our situation. And Salah, very similar to what you're saying about our announcers, pointed out this year, he was asked about our early bye week. Isn't this bye week a little early? He goes, well, look, they saved the late bye weeks for teams that they I think are going to be playing later in the season. So, and that's not us. So
yeah,
here we are. You know what I mean?
In a lot of ways, the deck is stacked against us. And when you lose for 10 years, that's what happens. It's not because they hate the Jets. It's because we've become a punchline over the past decade as the rise of social media happens, as the rise of fantasy football happens. And we've had no players that anybody wanted for fantasy football. And that's how a lot of people experience other teams, is through fantasy football. Right. And same thing with Madden and all the video games. Nobody wanted to play for the Jets with the video games. We didn't have anybody you'd want to play with. And so everybody goes, well, these guys are terrible. They're a punchline. And then we had the butt fumble and everything else. And not only that, then you see the broadcast. It wasn't this one, the past one. They had all of the graphics queued up. They had them all. The Jets haven't scored they had a running clock for how much game time has gone by before we scored a touchdown from previously. Like, when did you ever see that in a game? Really, right. A countdown clock for the last time we scored a touchdown. Really, you do that for us? Are you doing that for any other team in the NFL? No, you're not. Totally. It's ridiculous.
It is.
And they had all the things. The Jets haven't had a halftime lead. They haven't had a lead after the second quarter, after the first quarter, after the third and a half quarter. They've only had 6 points since this guy had a punt. I mean, they had it all queued up, ready to go.
Totally. They have staff spending hours of their time while getting paid figuring out stats like that. Did you know that the Jets, with 3 minutes remaining in the second half on a Sunday after 4 p.m. when it's raining and cloudy, the Jets have not scored a field goal in that time in 12 years? Did you know that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. They queue it all up. They have these production assistants going through and figuring this out just so they can, twist the knife in the back of the Jet fan. That's the whole purpose of it.
That's right.
Because they think that's how we're going to get the Jet fans to keep watching.
That's right.
Because they think we're not going to watch. We're going to watch. Trust me.
Yeah, we're the ones that are watching. It's like they said for years and years and years, when they first started the blackout thing and all that. Like, there was up in New York, New Jersey, the market up there. It was well known that Giant season tickets had a 25-year waiting list. People would give them in their wills. But the Jets. It was interesting because the Jets didn't have that 25-year waiting list, but the Jets did have, for many years in Giant Stadium, a waiting list. And it was just never talked about. And even though we were terrible, the Giants had won, 3 Super Bowls by that time. In recent memory, the Jets have done very little, and we're right there in none of our games. We're ever blacked out or any of that baloney. Could you imagine being in a market that's blacked out? Like you're in your own market. You turn on this TV on Sunday and they say, no, sorry, you're not allowed to watch this because you're a terrible fan base. Could you imagine? We've never had that. At least I don't remember it, man. And anyway, we're our good fan base. And for what we've been through, I think we just might be the best fan base. And that's why I weather such abnormalities in thought, because I do understand what this trauma can do to somebody. So I understand when people throw stones, I go, okay, I understand. You're sad. You're scared, sad child, really, even though you're 64 years old. You're a scared kid. You just want the Jets to win. You just want a touchdown. That's all you want.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why we try to point out the positives. I mean, I try to point out the positives, look for what we can find for building blocks. We got to look for the building blocks now. It's that point in the season where it's like, okay, who can we identify as building blocks for the future? An example is Jason Pinnock. I saw a few people talking about Pinnock in the chat. Jason Pinnock is a great guy to keep your eye on these last 2 games. How does he look? How does he do? He might be a piece, maybe, but we got to find out. So that's like, I don't expect us to beat the Bucs or the Bills in these next 2 games, but there's a lot we can look at. The offensive line, Zach Wilson, of course. and Jason Pinnock in particular are three areas I think we could look at.
Yeah, well, and that's a good thing. Like I've shared numerous times, the actual pick, the selection of Jason Pinnock, I did not like. I didn't like so much the player at that point. I didn't like the choice of position, lots of reasons. But the truth is that this draft class, the 2021 draft class, which I'll remind everyone is the first draft class that this staff that we've collected and built, it's their first time ever doing this together. First time with the coaches and the this and the that and the new analytics guy and all that. It's their first time together. They've done a pretty damn good job with not only having immediate impact guys, but guys that are going to develop. And when you look at the first four rounds before Jason Pinnock, who was the late fourth round pick, when you look at the first 4 rounds, every single one of them has been an immediate contributor. And then the second half, you have some contributors, you have some development, which is exactly what you hope to get out of the second half of the draft class. Now with Jason Pinnock, it's interesting because they're hoping he's a cornerback. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he's got the length, he's got the vertical, he's got all the stuff. He tackles well, but he hasn't looked so good when in one-on-one coverage and kind of handling the zones. We know the famous play where he fell on his face. They went to man for a play and said, "Okay, guys, we're going to get to the quarterback." And Jason Pinnock falls on his face and it was a touchdown. So he has had those interesting moments, but then out of necessity, they put him in at safety. And he comes, Frankie, it looked like he was shot out of a cannon. He was all over the place. He had the forced fumble. He had numerous impact plays. And it almost begs to consider, hey, maybe this guy, maybe he is going to be better here. But either way, I think it's just nice to see him show up on a football field in a positive way. And it's one more feather in the cap of the general manager and staff for this draft class. Do you see it the same way?
Well, one thing, yes, I do. Absolutely. And one of the things we have to keep in mind, I think, when we think about what are the Jets going to do, one of the things they like to do in the back end of the draft, and Coach Saleh made a comment about this that I remember, is they want to have some, if somebody's advocating that we pick a certain guy, there has to be something elite about the guy. What are you going to hang your hat on about this guy? What's elite about? Does he have some kind of elite trait? With Jason Pinnock, he happens to have elite explosiveness. Explosiveness is something they score on their prospect scorecard, and it's a combination of how high you jump and certain other things. And he was elite at that. And they said, okay. And Tony Oden, I bet you, was probably going, listen, with this guy, what he's done at Pittsburgh and his elite explosiveness and my coaching and Coach Manuel's coaching and Coach Manning, we can turn this guy into something. And he must have been banging the table for him because of that. And that's the way it's going to be. And like Jonathan Marshall had an elite overall RAS score. So it's sort of like one of the highest they've ever seen. So they said, okay, this is a defensive lineman. That's his elite trait. Let's bring him in here for a 6th round pick. You want to have one elite something. Right. And that's what they like to do. So there you go. And I think it's a good way to do it because, when you're talking about the end of the draft, you don't want to get just somebody who does things okay. Give me somebody with something elite, and then I can coach them up a certain way.
Yeah. Well, right. And when you know that they have an elite trait, then you can figure out how to use that elite trait as opposed to trying to figure out what this guy's good at. Like, okay, he's a good athlete. He's fast. He jumps high. He's agile and things. And then, okay, how can we find out what this guy does well? When you have that one elite trait, you can actually try to build around that and just say, okay, we're going to find a way to utilize this person's strength in some way. How is that strength? How can it be utilized in this defense that we're trying to call? Which is one of the reasons I'm a little bit more patient with the staff. Like if I had to choose one that was a little bit more embattled, I would say defense, right? The offense has at least shown creativity, I think they're progressing a little bit nicer, a little bit smoother as of maybe the last half of the season. I think the offense, Mike LaFleur has gotten off the chopping block at least. His neck is no longer on the block. He's just kind of in the courtyard somewhere, he's eating a biscuit somewhere in the courtyard, but his neck is not like hung over the block. And I think that's for good reason. But when you look at the defense, why I'm so patient is I think that a lot of what we're seeing, and this does apply to the offense too, is that they've chosen to go at this the hard way, not just incrementally bringing guys up. They're throwing the book at guys. They're saying, we're going to leave you out there. We're going to weather this. We're going to take your mistakes, and we're going to deal with this together. And you're going to figure out this defense in the fire, the trial by fire method. Now, would I have done that? Maybe not. I'm a believer in kind of bringing guys in slowly and making scenarios that they're likely to succeed and all that. But when you look at it the other way, it's like, no, man, we're going balls to the wall. They're going to look like crap. Like Salah has said, we're going to look like champions one day. We're going to look like world beaters. And the other day, we're going to look like we don't belong on a football field and all that sort of stuff. And I think that has come true as well. But when you look at the guys that they've chosen for the defense, Brandon Eccles, Michael Carter II, Sherwood, Nasruddin, Pinnock, and on and on and on, Bryce Hall, it does make a lot of sense what they're trying to do. And as we move forward and bring in some pass rushers, if Carl Lawson can come back and just have a pass rush that's at least consistent. We don't have to have the greatest pass rush in the world, but something that's consistent. I think we're going to see development continue with this defense because, like you said, guys like Tony Oden, I'm a huge fan, man, of what he's been able to do with these young guys. And look, if anybody's positional group has been decimated and beaten, and it's his. And while they've had their down moments, overall, I think they've done an exceptional job. And I think that this defense does give a lot of hope. And I understand why people are kind of, hashtag fire Ulbricht. I get it. I really do. At the same time, I think I can see a lot of reasons to feel good about them moving forward. Do you see it the same way? Do you, or maybe you have an opposite approach here? What you're seeing?
No, I pretty much agree, GreenBean. I think one of the things that people people just don't really appreciate is the fact that LaMarcus Joyner was a big part of what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a ready-made replacement for him until Jason Pinnock emerged. That's the whole point of Jason Pinnock. He's basically replacing LaMarcus Joyner. And we didn't really appreciate what exactly we were trying to do with LaMarcus Joyner. LaMarcus Joyner was a nickel slot cornerback that we were moving over to free safety. Okay, so he's going to be our cover safety. And Marcus May was going to be our strong safety. Okay, and we were going to have a 4-3 defense. And it was going to be C.J. Mosley and Jamian Sherwood and Jared Davis. Okay, that was going to be our defense. All right, well, LaMarcus Joyner gets injured in the first game. And we have no one to replace him. We don't have anybody at that point in time that could do what he could do. So now we basically have a bunch of guys that we cycle through. We cycled through Jared Davis and Adrian Colbert and this guy and that guy. We finally found Elijah Riley, but none of them are cover safeties. And we had to do this experiment that I talked about 4 or 5 weeks ago with Jason Pinnock because I noticed they were doing it. And I was like, something's going on with Pinnock because don't forget, he's from Pittsburgh. I'm in Pittsburgh. I like Jason Pinnock. I keep my eye on him a little closer than most people probably. And so I noticed he was getting in the game and he was doing things. They were trying him out, I thought. As a safety. And I was like, this is interesting. Why are they doing that? Because they were trying all that time to replace LaMarcus Joyner to allow a 4-3 to be on the field because we noticed that they were a base nickel defense actually after LaMarcus Joyner went out. And that meant that they had to have only 2 linebackers on the field. And that made it very difficult for us to stop the run. In addition to the fact that our linemen haven't been doing a good job and the linebackers we do haven't been doing a good job either. And Jared Davis has been bad, very bad. But that was one of the reasons why our run defense was exceptionally bad because we've been trying since game 1 to replace LaMarcus Joyner. And now, just now, with Pinnock in the last game, we've replaced him. And guess what? We had many more situations where we were 4-3 in that game. Now, it didn't really work out because Jared Davis is terrible. But the idea, the concept, the concept of it, is clear now. We can see what Ulbricht was doing. So, my concern was I couldn't understand at first, why is Ulbricht in this base nickel so much? 87%, 93% of the time. We're in nickel defense. What's going on here? Well, he was trying to get Michael Carter II on the field because he can cover somebody and our safeties couldn't. And so he was trying to use safeties as linebackers and Carter as a cover safety, sort of, if you think about it that way. And that was, he was trying to cover for something. He was trying to cover for a deficiency. It didn't really work because we just didn't, we didn't have good enough linebackers to make that work. And so, but at least he was trying. So at least you could see the theory, the concept behind it. And you can see now that he has Pinnock back there, now he went back to 4-3. And it'd be nice if we had 3 really good linebackers instead, but we don't. But still, now we know Ulbrich is not somebody who's just going to stick to what he's doing for no reason. He's never going to change and never adapt and be adaptable. No, he will if he has the players to do it. And so I thought that was very instructional to figure that out. And it makes me feel much better about Coach Ulbrich than I did previously when I was trying to figure it out.
Well, right. And, you have to believe, like when Ulbrich came on in the beginning, he talked about he wanted to make it clear that this is Robert Saleh's defense. He said, this is Robert's defense. I just am able to add wrinkles and call it on, on the field and everything. But this is his. And when you look at it like that, you want to believe like, okay, well, if this is his defense, that it can be good because he's the leader. I mean, this is kind of all trickled down from him. If he's successful with what he does, then the guys running his system should, that should be successful as well. But like you said, when there are reasons for them being stuck in certain situations, like when you look at our safety position, man, I mean, we've had, I think last week we were on our 7th starting safety. We had Will Parks. There are articles everywhere. Will Parks had a great first game. And 2 weeks ago, that was Elijah Riley. I mean, like, where the fuck is Elijah Riley all this side? It's like, now it's Will Parks. Like, that's what we're talking about. Like, there has been quite literally a revolving door at safety, and they've been trying to cover that. Now, and when you look, one thing I'll say, when you look at where the Jets have been successful, we have not seen many bombs over the top of the defense to jab that sword in the chest of the defense kind of thing that we're used to seeing around here. Now, they haven't had to because the underneath is there, but I think that's by design. We can handle it if it's underneath. If it's over the top and in the end zone, there's nothing you can do. It's over. So we have seen numerous games where it's bend, don't break. And I think that's a positive. Like I said, I don't think anybody here is talking about being ecstatic with what we've seen, but I think there is reason for hope. Now, Scott Wilson chimed in with a question. I think it's a good one. I wanted to make sure I didn't get lost in the sauce. And I like the fact that he used the word, Frankie. So he says, I know you have had gripes with the coaching staff. Gripe is the word of the year, I think, for me anyway. Gripe jelly. It's my favorite. We've had gripes with the coaching staff. Have you seen improvement over their rookie year? Do you like the staff's direction for seasons coming up? And I'll bounce that one to you. I have quite a bit to say on it, and I think by the end of it, you'll forget what the question is. So I want to give it to you first.
Well, as far as Coach Ulbrich, I think I just explained, my thinking. And in the beginning, I was questioning it because I couldn't understand it. And so it wasn't that I had a gripe with him. I was just trying to figure out, why are we in a nickel-based defense? And then guess what? I figured it out. It was because LaMarcus Joyner was a guy we just didn't have a ready-made replacement for. And that's what happens when you have a bad roster. If you lose your starters, you're in a lot of trouble. The good rosters, the Super Bowl contenders, they lose a starter or two, and it's no big deal. They just plug somebody in, and that somebody's close to as good as the starter. We don't have that situation. Elijah Riley was on somebody's practice squad, and he not only made our team, the 53-man, and not only was active on the 48-man, he was a starter for us. He was a top 22-man for us. He was on somebody else's practice squad. That's how bad it is on our roster. So in terms of that, so that's what I think about Coach Ulbrich. So it was more about, okay, let's try to figure out what coach is doing here, because our beat, again, boycott the beat. You see it on the bottom there. Our beat was not asking him about this. Nobody was asking him about this. And once again, for the final game, they denied me my press credentials. I got an official email the other day from the Jets saying, Frankie, no, thank you. We don't have space limitations, Frankie, stay away. Okay, well, so, and because I would ask, but nobody on the beat is asking these kind of questions. So I was trying to figure it out with my drive charts and everything else. So that's Coach Ulbrich. And then LaFleur, I never really had a gripe with LaFleur. I kind of thought, we're installing a brand new offense that's complicated. The West Coast offense is complicated and hard. And it took a little while for it to take hold, especially the offensive line. And the offensive line's done much better in the second half of the year. And our offensive performance has improved, and I don't think that's coincidental. You have the offensive line, I always say, is the most important group on the whole team, maybe other than quarterback. Because without them, you can't do anything. If your quarterback's running for his life, he can't do anything. And if the running backs are getting tackled in the backfield, it doesn't matter how good they are. They're dead meat. So Yeah, I don't really have I mean, and then if you look at guys like Tony Oden and Coach Manuel and Coach Manning and Coach, they're doing phenomenal jobs and have been from day one, and it was clear that's what they were doing from day one. And I also really like Coach Saleh, and I do think he's the real deal until proven otherwise. I do think we have the right man for that job, and that makes me feel good about the future. And Green Bean might be frozen.
Yeah. Well, I think those are really good points. Oh, am I?
No, now your audio's okay. Oh, there we go.
No, I'm good. Am I back?
Your audio's okay.
Am I back, Frankie?
Your audio's good.
Okay. Yeah, I was just writing the private chat. I was just in the private chat asking. It's like all of a sudden everything started getting crazy over here. So hopefully that's not the trend here. Well, can you hear me though?
Yeah.
Okay, we're on a big delay all of a sudden too. So just to answer that question quickly, I got into a discussion on Twitter, and by discussion I mean somebody doesn't read tweets and overreacts in the wrong way to words I didn't say. That's what I mean. But so I got into this discussion on Twitter with somebody who we were talking about Denzel Mims and some coaching decisions, and what I said was, well, you can't expect a rookie coaching staff to get every move right at the gate. Like, they're going to learn on the job. And he took that as I said the coaching staff sucks and blah, 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 blah. Now, what I will say is I don't think the coaching staff sucks. Now, there were times when I was very worried about LaFleur. I didn't see what I had hoped to see with a young quarterback, and the offensive line assignments, they looked crazy. And so I was nervous, but I think I've seen tons of progress. Now, if this was going to be all we ever were, would I be happy? No, I don't think we're there. But what I am seeing is three rookies, at the front end, Ulbrich, Saleh, and LaFleur. I see three rookies that are quite literally learning on the job and getting better as we go. So I think I have seen progress, and it's kind of exciting to me because we didn't see this fantasy year like with Todd Bowles or Eric Mangini when they came out and 10-6 and all this stuff, and look how great we are, and then it just completely collapses because it's a house of cards. That's not what I like, and I know a lot of Jets fans wanted that. They'd rather sell the future for I'd pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today kind of a thing, and I don't think that's the best way to do things. Like Joe Douglas and Saleh made a decision. We have 5 years left on our contract. It's going to take every minute of those 5 years to get this done. We have the time. Tear it down. And we're going to eat some shit sandwiches on the way, but we're going to get this thing built right. And even though we didn't get to 10-6 this year, like Bowles did and Mangini did, and I think it's actually better. So I'm happy with what we've done. Now, Frankie, very important. Did I come back? Can you guys see me again?
Yeah, you're good with me. Let us know in the chat if Green Bean is. Your video quality isn't great, but I think people are okay with that. You'll let us know in the chat.
Yeah. Okay. As long as the audio is good. Yeah. When I come to this place in Orlando, this is the worst place. Like AT&T and Verizon are not existent here, so I have to rely on my T-Mobile and my Wii Boost, and I'm boosting it and I'm T-Mobile in it, and it looked so good for a little while. But anyway, I think the coaching thing, I see lots of reasons to be happy. Now, there were a few other comments that I wanted to get to. Let me see here. All right, so yeah, this one, Sneakers to Boots. What's up, buddy? He says, the biggest disappointment has been the defensive line. I know there are injuries, but we still didn't expect what we've gotten. Now, Frankie, there were moments where John Franklin Myers looked like he was going to be the next thing. Like he was unstoppable for a few minutes there, and then he has had additional moments throughout. But I think a lot of people, after seeing him get paid, which most Jets fans were in favor of, after he got paid, he disappeared for a month and has been spotty at best since. So he's one that can be out front. But I think another one is Quinnen Williams. All injuries aside, what do you think of those two guys? Do you agree with Sneakers to Boots? Do you think that they're disappointing overall, or are you hey, man, take it easy? I've liked what I've seen. Where do you stand with the defensive line where they are right now?
No, I would agree with sneakers to boots. I think they have been disappointing. Now, we do have to remember what the concept was, though. And it's similar to what happened with LaMarcus Joyner. There was one guy on our team that was irreplaceable. His name was Carl Lawson. And that's just a fact. And I've shown on some of my videos the true sack rate list. And there was one Jet on the list from 2020. His name was Carl Lawson. And the whole list, teams have one guy on the list. These are rare people on the true sack rate list that Brandon Thorne comes up with. And these are people who are, really, really good at pressuring the quarterback, and they don't get coverage sacks and low quality sacks. They're people who get in there, like the TJ Watts of the world and the Myles Garrett's of the world, and, all of the high quality edge rushers. Well, Carl Lawson was one of those. And there's no backup for that. You can't back up a guy when you have one on the list. There's no backup. I mean, if you want to think, our backup was probably Vinny Curry, and he went down too. And you think go back to the quote from Ulbrich in the offseason where he said, "Listen, in our defense, the defensive backs only have to cover for about 3 seconds because we're going to force the quarterback to move up in the pocket, and in our defense there will be no pocket. There will be no pocket." And we all said, "Yeah." There will be no pocket. I like that. Well, what did he mean? Well, he meant that Vinny Curry and Carl Lawson were going to be coming off the edge because they're special pass rushers, especially Lawson. And they were going to funnel the quarterback up in the pocket. And then all JFM and Quinnen had to do was come off their blocks, tackle it quickly, tackle the quarterback, and that's it. There is no pocket. See you later. And that was the concept. Yeah. That's what was supposed to happen. And if you lose Carl Lawson, there's no replacing him. We could get Shaq Lawson all day, but Shaq Lawson is no Carl Lawson. They're not comparable at all. Shaq Lawson was just a filler guy. And by the way, he's probably getting cut because we can save about $9.5 million if we cut Shaq Lawson. So I think it's bye-bye Shaq, unless you want to come back for a lower salary.
Say goodbye.
But yeah, but that's the thing. And LaMarcus Joyner too. It's not like LaMarcus Joyner was is the honey badger or something. He's not. But there's no one on our team that had his skill set that we were trying to use him for. Doesn't mean he was going to be super successful at it, but we didn't even have anybody that we could try that had anything resembling his skill set for what we were trying to make him do in the defense, and that caused us to do different things. I think it's the same with the defensive line. However, I do agree with sneakers to boots that Quinnen in particular, it has been disappointing. Regardless of schematics and anything else, Quinnen should be dominant, and he hasn't been. I'm going to personally blame that on the foot injury. He missed all of training camp. He missed all the preseason games. I'm going to just go ahead and say I think he probably has been hampered by that all year. I don't know that to be true. Could be wrong. Who knows? We'll find out next year. But, and Jeremy saying in the chat about Foley. Foley's another one. Yeah, big disappointment. So Foley Fatukasi was a big run stuffer for the last 2 years. He had amazing run stuffing grades, and everybody said, this guy's a great run stuffer. Oh, my God, look what the Jets have. And then this year, he's been terrible at it. Or not terrible. He's been, let's say, below average. So he went from elite to below average. That's a big drop. Quinnen went from looking like a superstar, people say he was going to be the next Aaron Donald, to a guy who's just average. And so, yeah, there's been some disappointing performances for sure. And then some of our people who were supposed to help in this defense, Lawson and Curry in particular on the defensive line, went down, and we just don't have replacements for those guys because there are no replacements. It's like if TJ Watt goes down, the Steelers can't replace him. There's nobody to replace him. That you can't replace the skill set.
Right. Now, it's a funny, like with Sheldon Rankins, Foley Fatukasi, like these are guys that have had their moments too. Like Foley Fatukasi, the first half of the season, he was number 1 in the NFL for the run stop thing. And then it fell off. Now, when you look at losing guys like Carl Lawson, then Vinny Curry, then Ronald Blair, and so Bryce Huff, an undrafted free agent a year ago with a handful of snaps, comes in, and he's supposed to be the starter, and he's going to save. Don't worry, we're not going to miss a beat with Bryce Huff from Memphis. And he comes in, and then he gets hurt. And so I think injuries have really hampered, because here's the thing. A lot of people don't really remember this. They really don't. John Franklin Myers is not a defensive end. Can he play it? Yes, he can. But he's most comfortable on the inside. That's where he has most of his impact. So I think the fact that we've had to move him outside and he was successful there is why he got his money. It's like, this is a guy that you've put in a position where truth be told, he's taking it for the team. Like, that's what he's doing. He's like, okay, yeah, I'll play that for you. And he did a good job. So the guy shows he has versatility. He can succeed at different areas. But if we did have, let's just say Bryce Huff, Vinny Curry, and Carl Lawson were still there, I think John Franklin Myers would have been part of it would have been John Franklin Myers, Foley Kadakasi, Quinnen Williams, and Sheldon Rankins. That would have been the rotation on the interior. And I think that would have been significantly better. I think, guys, when you only have one trick, it's not difficult for teams to account for it. And that was our trick. Our trick was our defensive line, and you just double team Quinnen and let the other guys, the Shaq Lawsons and the and whoever the hell else we had out there, run around. And they're ineffective. 75% of the time, we'll deal with the 25% effectiveness, and we'll beat them that way. And I think that's what we've seen a lot. Am I disappointed overall? I say with the second half of the season, yes. Outside of I think 1-2 games, maybe they came and showed up and was like, wow, that's the potential of the defensive line. But I think I'm not concerned to the point where I've actually had people say to me, I know it's odd, but I think we need to go defensive tackle in the first 2 rounds. And I just might stab myself if we do that. I can't possibly swallow that defensive tackle in the first 2 rounds pill, Frankie. I think that would be a little bit too much. Now, switching over to the offensive line, the stat came out. Oh, sorry, but go ahead. You want to say a comment? Go ahead.
I was going to say, no, I mean, we are getting Lawson back. I still haven't heard anything about Vinny Curry. I'd love to know some information about Vinny Curry. Can he come back with his blood disorder? If anybody knows in the chat, let me know. I'd love to know if you would think he would be a little bit, we would want to help us because our staff is the one who diagnosed this blood condition he had, which is, maybe saved his life. And you'd think if he can play, you'd think, okay, I'm gonna go play for the Jets because they're the ones who diagnosed this. Nobody else did.
Yeah.
But if those guys come back, those are our edge guys, and then they should improve the play of Quinnen and everybody else in the middle. JFM, goes back to his natural position. And then we need, but if we add somebody like an Aiden Hutchinson, okay. I think about a team that has Aiden Hutchinson and Carl Lawson and all the other guys now go into their defensive tackle position where they should be. That's gonna be a problem for people because those two can beat one-on-ones, can beat you double team them, they could beat them anyway. I mean, there's video of TJ Watt beating a triple team. TJ Watt. And this is the guy getting a sack anyway. So let's put 3 people on TJ Watt. He still beats it. That's how good he is. And that's the kind of player Carl Lawson was. He's on the list. He's not that good, but he's at least on the list. He's in the middle of that list. And that's the quality of player. And you can't replace that. But if you get Aiden Hutchinson and team him up with Carl Lawson, boy, now you have something, and there'll be a lot to clean up for JFM and Quinnen and everybody else. And everyone will say, wow, they're doing really great. But everything is of a piece. A defense is 11 people working together. And, nobody likes to hear that. But that's the way it is. And then we need to improve our linebackers as well. I mean, we basically have one linebacker. I mean, I like Quincy as much as anybody, but he's like a linebacker 4 or 5. He's not, if he's your linebacker 2, you got big problems. It's okay that he's on the team and maybe he's going to improve, but your second linebacker, no, I'm sorry. He's not that good. Not as of right now. Maybe he can improve and he's got potential. Okay, great. But he's not the guy. And Sherwood was supposed to be that guy. Think about Hamza and Jamie and Sherwood. Hamza Nasruddin and Jamie and Sherwood came in, same exact circumstances, same exact coaching, same exact deal. We need these guys to be linebackers. One was developing to the point where he got the green dot helmet when Mosley was out, and the other one's on special teams. They got the same exact coaching, the same exact nutrition, the same exact circumstances, the same exact desire for them to be starting linebackers for us. One developed really quickly, and the coaching staff was really happy with him, Sherwood, and then he gets injured. It's another problem we have. And then but Hamza doesn't, and that's just the way it goes with development. Guys develop at different paces, and so we couldn't have Hamza as a linebacker yet. So there's a lot we need. Yeah. And that's the way it goes with it down to the studs rebuild. We need everything.
Yeah, totally. And then you can see the impact and the efforts being made, and some of it's sticking and some of it's not, but it's happening. That's the thing. You can see the efforts. Now, switching over to the offensive line, there was a stat that came out. Did you know? I mean, I think it might have been me that put it out. I forget if I saw it and put it out or if I retweeted. I honestly don't remember, but I was talking about it last night. You know, the Jets, as of this week, are the 12th overall offensive line in the NFL per PFF, I think it was. It might have been another agency, but the 12th overall offensive line. The number one most highly rated individual on the 12th overall offensive line, Frankie, is none other than Connor McGovern, who had an interesting year. You know, he's ups and downs, but the last 6 or 7, 8 weeks, he's really been consistently solid. Do you think that the 12th overall offensive line grade is a little bit misleading? Do you think, hey, you know, look, we were the 32nd offensive line, then we were the 31st offensive line, then we were the 25th offensive line, and now we're the 12th offensive line. It's a natural upward progression that Joe Douglas is doing with bringing in first-round picks and free agents and all that sort of stuff. Do you think it's legitimate? Do you see it continuing? And then if you wouldn't mind, what are your thoughts on this Connor McGovern character?
Well, I do think it is legitimate. One of the reasons why is George Fant has improved dramatically. You talk about development. George Fant has surpassed all expectations, and that's wonderful. And you say, okay, good job, Coach Benton. Good job, George Fant. Good job, everybody. And so that's wonderful. So we have George Fant, who's developed his pass blocking to an elite level. He's an elite pass blocker now. Now his run blocking isn't fantastic. But next to him, you have AVT, who is a fantastic run blocker and needs to improve his pass blocking. Then you come over to McGovern. McGovern is currently the 8th best center in all of football. So, I mean, it is what it is. And you watch the tape and he does fine. I mean, I don't know why people are unhappy with Connor McGovern. You know, he's the 8th best center in all of football. And that's the way it is. And you watch him play and he does well. Now we've had trouble on the right side. Obviously the right guard has been of concern. And then you had Morgan Moses, and Morgan Moses as the right tackle has done well, but he's not a superstar. He's getting a little older. I wouldn't mind bringing Morgan Moses back if he wants to be a backup, you know, at a reasonable salary. Fine. You know, I'd love to have Morgan Moses come back. He's a great guy. And then we have to figure out what we're doing at right guard. But I don't think it's too much of a – I mean, they've overperformed considering that Mekhi hasn't played all year. But they've overperformed a little. But I saw a ranking before the season started that said we'd be about the 18th best offensive line in the league was the estimation. And if we wind up 12 or 13, that's not far off. And we've overperformed because, you know, we wouldn't have expected George Fant to have improved as much as he has. And you would have expected more of a drop-off from Becton, from Becton to the next guy. And we signed Morgan Moses late, which was a great signing by JD. Thank God for that. But I think, you know, I think we have to figure out one of the things to watch over the next 2 games is going to be right guard. I mean, I've been saying, you know, since we got him, LDT is a key player. He's a very key player for us. And the fact that he had to miss one game was terrible, but just because we need to evaluate LDT, Dr. Larry. And we didn't get a chance to evaluate him. Now, hopefully he and AVT are off the COVID list now. So hopefully they both play in this next game and we can continue to evaluate because we have a decision to make whether to keep him there. And if we do, we could say with Mekhi coming back that our offensive line, the starting offensive line, you know, is set and we don't have to spend premium picks on offensive line. We can just spend sort of pipeline picks on offensive line. But it all depends. It all depends on the evaluation of LDT, what we want to do with him, if we want to extend him a contract or not, and if he wants to be here. And then if we get Moses back, like Johnny's talking about, Moses said he'd like to be back. He would, I'm sure, but I'm pretty sure he's going to want to start somewhere, John. And, you know, if we offer him backup money, he's probably not going to come back here. But if he wants to, that's great. He's also very close friends with George Fant. They're O-line bros. They work out together in the off season. And so he may want to stick around with his friend George Fant. I don't know. And that'd be great for us.
Yeah. Well, you know, he put out, he was interviewed this last week, and he actually went as far as to say he loves it here. Everybody from the custodian all the way up, he said, is fantastic in this place, and he loves it here, and he'd like to be back. So that is a good, you know, look, let's be real here. We're not used to hearing that stuff. I mean, just a year and some change ago, we had a guy literally running through saying everything about this organization is garbage. The general manager can't be trusted. He's a liar. The coach may or may not be on crystal methamphetamine. We don't know. It was all kinds of stuff going on. And to hear a guy who came from Washington, and don't forget, Washington has been through the ringer the last few years about players not wanting to play there. We had, what the hell's his name? The left tackle. I can't believe I'm frying out. He's over at the Niners now, I think. But he said that the medical staff there botched his diagnosis so badly that he will never play with them again. Sat out an entire year, specifically not to play. So Morgan Moses came from that. So maybe it's not going all the way to maybe the Ravens or the Steelers kind of an organization, but I think the fact that he knows what bad really can be, he's looking at Joe Douglas, the Atlantic Health Training Center, and Robert Saleh and the crew, and he said, you know what, man, this ain't so bad here, and I like it. And like you said, he's got good friends there like George Fant, but I think his leadership would be where his maximum value is, and his availability. We talk about that ability being the number one ability that someone can possess. Morgan Moses has it, man. He might not be a world beater, but he's solid and he's there. You rarely have to worry about him going down for long stretches. I don't want to jinx him, of course, but I think that's very, very important, especially with a department like the offensive line, a positional group where it's five guys having to gel with one another. We have seen a friggin' it's been a circus act with all the different guys over the past 5 years. You look at our offensive line and what it has been. There's no potential for gelling. So we like to see guys actually be able to be in there for maybe, imagine this, Frankie, 2 years. Imagine 2 years on the offensive line and actually makes it to the game and makes it through and plays. So I think Morgan Moses does have that benefit too. I'd like to see him back. But Jets Forever is saying McGovern is the reason for all the O-line miscues. And what I think what he's touching on there is, anybody who knows is, the center is really responsible for calling out the blocking assignments, and what's going on in the defense. But I think when you look at there's another comment in here, I lost it, but it says, you can't forget Greg Van Roten and just how bad he was. Look, they wanted him to make it. The whole situation with Cam Clark and all that jazz. I think Connor McGovern having terrible guard play next to him over the past year and change, a year and a half really, has weathered some of the success and impact that he can have a little bit, maybe just slowed it down a little bit. But I think when you look at Connor McGovern and his impact, while he's not perfect, I think he's a damn good center. And like Frankie said, rather than using a top 10 pick on a center, which has an incredibly high bust rate. I want you guys to know that. We'll talk about that in a future show. I have all the bust rates on all the positions over the past 35 years and all this kind of stuff. So center is not a very, very high bust rate for a top 15 pick. So we want to be cautious with that, but maybe waiting till the second, third, fourth round, getting a guy who's absolutely capable of starting, but maybe not right away. Let him sit behind McGovern for a year or so, and then let him come in that way, which is what, when we talk about the pipeline is something that good teams do well. I mean, the long-standing successful teams, they do things well, and one of those things is the pipeline. Having guys that you don't need to draft and sign guys to play right now because you have a strong core in place. When they want to get paid, you make a decision. When you don't want to pay him, like look at the Ravens with Judon. The Patriots were offering him a song and dance, and they said, okay, man, we'll go take it. And we have a guy come right in and play. And that's what they've been doing the past 20 years. And when you look at positions like the offensive line, it's one of the most important that you have guys that if something happens, they come right in and you don't miss a beat because they've been with the team. They know the playbook. They know the assignments. They know the players. And they can step right in. And I think that's best case scenario rather than grabbing Linderbaum and pushing the only guy that is top 10 on our whole friggin' team, pushing him to the side because we like Linderbaum so much. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm a little bit, as much as I like the player, Frankie, I'm not so on the idea of using a top 10 pick on Linderbaum. Now, Frank, we're about to go into our second hour, and I'm going to do something. We are going to attempt here to pay the bills, if you can believe this. So we're going to play a little commercial for you. It shouldn't take very long. And then we're going to get into some WA2K. We're going to talk more about maybe some draft picks, We got lots to talk about. Y2K is going to talk to us about this week's game, Frankie. Imagine that. We have a game this week against none other than the Tom Brady-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we'll see how that goes. Y2K is going to talk to us about that. But first, let's get a word from our sponsor. Guys, DraftKings Sportsbook is coming to New York, and it's not going to be long until you can take a shot on all your favorite sports teams right here in New York on the world-famous DraftKings sports betting app. We all already know DraftKings from their daily fantasy contests, and now they've gone and brought their expertise to sports betting so sports fans everywhere can get in on the action. DraftKings Sportsbook offers everything you could possibly want in a sports betting app, from player props to same-game parlays. They have it all. In just a short time, you'll be able to wager on all your favorite sports from the comfort of your own home on one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, and best of all, you can deposit or withdraw your cash whenever you want. So check out DraftKings Sportsbook and tell them I sent you by using promo code GreenBean. That's promo code GreenBean. DraftKings Sportsbook, coming soon to New York State. There it is. So, guys, DraftKings, the information, the link is in the top of the description of this very video. Again, if you decide that you'd rather do your sports betting with a company that is well known for having a good reputation out there rather than Joe's Sports Betting from Newark, New Jersey, maybe you go with DraftKings. If that is your choice, don't forget to tell them that GreenBean sent you using my promo code GreenBean, and that'll be great. Thank you, DraftKings. So, Frankie, before we get off the offensive line, there's a comment in here about LDT, and I know you touched on him. Well, let me get your opinion. What do you think of LDT? We have 2 more games. Supposedly, he is coming back. He is, if I may tell you this, he happens to be the lowest graded starting offensive lineman on the team right now. Now he comes in and is an immediate upgrade over Greg Van Roten, but still he's the lowest graded offensive lineman out of the starting 5 right now. So how do you feel about him? How do you think he'll wrap up the season? And would you re-sign him? Would he be your answer?
Well, let me give you an alternate perspective. I know his grade is the lowest, but I discount the first game that he played with us. First game he played with us, he hadn't taken a snap in 2 years, and he was learning our offense, and he's coming over here. He gets in there, and he had a very low grade, and that's pushing his grade down. So that's one thing, and I exclude that game. I don't think that's fair to him. And if you look at him from the rest of the games he's played with us, for one thing, his pass blocking efficiency grade, not his pass blocking grade from PFF, his efficiency grade, which I've started to prefer over the regular PFF grade, because if you look at pass blocking efficiency, it's more objective. It just says, okay, 4 categories of pressuring the quarterback. If you don't allow any of those, if they're all 0, you get 100% efficiency. You didn't let anybody come close to the quarterback. Hey, to me, that takes subjectivity out of it. So if you don't allow a sack, if you don't allow a pressure, a hit, or anything else, you get 100% efficiency. So the best you can do is 100%. And the elite people do 98+% better. Well, if you take out his first game, his pass blocking efficiency grade for us is 98.5%. And that's elite.
Okay.
Now, it's only a few games. It's not a whole season. So, it's a grain of salt. But to me, that's really good. And he had to learn on the fly, and he came to a new team out in the middle of the season and all that good stuff. And so that gives me a lot of hope. Now, his run blocking hasn't been as good as that, but it's been okay. Not fantastic, but pretty good. So I think that's one of the key things to watch these last 2 games. It's going to be one of the key decisions Joe Douglas has to make. What do we do with this guy, LDT? Now, if LDT, I would think based on McGovern, based on Morgan Moses' comments, LDT probably wants to stay here. I mean, Morgan Moses is a wily veteran. He's been a number of places, seen a bunch of things. And he's saying everything from the custodians to Zach Wilson is top notch. I mean, that's a pretty high praise for our organization, and also makes me optimistic that once we cleaned house with Gase and McCagnon, that it's not, that everything else is okay. In other words, not ownership. Ownership is providing everything. The things ownership did wrong was hire McCagnon and Gase. And then they got rid of those guys. And now everything with the organization is top notch, according to Morgan Moses. And I have no reason to disbelieve what he said. Everyone else seems to think that. So LDT might want to stay here. And if his performance is as good as it seems, or continues this way, and JD sign, I would love, if he continues to play like he's played, I would sign him to a 2-year deal, because he's a certainty. One bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, and 3 in the garbage can. Right.
Right.
I'd keep him, and I'd say, okay, there's my right guard. And then I'd draft somebody later, like a guy like Mpe from BYU, is a center you could get late, and maybe even an undrafted free agent, and you can put him in your pipeline. And he's a guy that Zach already has chemistry with. So, okay, he's not going to start for us, but you put him in the pipeline, like a Ross Piersbacher and those guys.
Yes, my boy. I love anybody who says the name Ross Piersbacher gets an uptick in my love for them, Frankie. So well done. We have a super chat from Chidi Took. Thank you. I appreciate the super chat. A nice golden one, which is my favorite color of super chat. So this team's culture has made a dramatic shift since this time last year. Appreciate you guys giving perspective with our fan base. Where do you watch the games when you're in Orlando? Would love to meet. Oh, I'm picking up, Frankie, that he may be in Orlando. That would be neat. Now,
let me say this about Orlando. I will never go to Orlando. I hate Orlando.
Why?
Every time I've been there, I have had a horrible time. I just want it to be known. If you expect me to be in Orlando, you can forget it. Now, GreenBean, I'm sure it's a little different, but old Frankie, not going to Orlando. It's because it's a little bit of a thing I have, a bee in my bonnet, I guess you could say. Every time somebody in the corporate world wants to have an event or a conference, every time it's Orlando. Every freaking time, can we have it somewhere else other than Orlando? Why is it always Orlando?
Roanoke, Virginia, please. Roanoke.
Yeah.
Can anyone go?
Some weird place. I'd rather go to some weird place that nobody ever goes to. Everybody goes to Orlando. I don't know why.
Well, that is interesting. I do have a significantly different experience in Orlando. Now, Orlando happens to be, while this campground that I'm at right now is kind of like the hub in Florida, all the full-time families like myself, we winter here. And this is great because all the kids see their friends from all year. And so it's really great. But the internet, this is the worst place outside of Ohio for web-based live streaming, Frankie. I mean, I'm hanging on a thread every time that I'm in Orlando. So when I include that, my feelings on Orlando are a little bit tilted toward the negative. But Orlando, I mean, look, if you got a couple bucks, Orlando's a good time. But let me say this, to wrap up the Orlando thing, I actually last week, Chidi, I was about to do a live stream from the Orlando Jets fan club, and I was talking to them, and I was ready to do it, and we were going, and then I found out that the guy I was talking to actually left the Orlando Jets fan club, and he now runs the Tampa Jets fan club, which is 3 hours away, which means 6 hours round trip, which means I'm not coming. So we had to cancel that. So sadly, but the truth is I do the live stream, so I watch it right here in my camper, man. And I'm on tape delay, and Jeremy gets to make fun of me and all that jazz. But that's what I do, so I can do the live streams for Jetnation. I did the one live stream over at the Virginia Jets fan club that Wat2K, he'll be on here in about 5 minutes. He's the president of the Virginia Jets fan club, and we went over there and had a great time with them. I was hoping to do the South Florida Jets fan club. They it didn't work out with them. And then the Orlando thing didn't work out with them. But so I watch it right here in my 40-foot trailer. That's what I do. But as far as the culture, it's an interesting thing because when you look at the Adam Gase culture around here, Joe Douglas got hired and he said, we want to build the best culture in sports, not just the best culture in New York, not the NFL, the best culture in sports. Now, what's it going to take to do that? You think you're going to go sign Thuney and Galladay, and there it is, the best culture in New York. So he's chosen the hard path, like we've commented on a few times tonight. And I think that when you look at the success on the field, I have a lot of people that I talk to. They're on the, hey, Joe Douglas, you are what your record says you are. Joe Douglas has pulled together 5 wins or whatever it is in the last 2 years, or 6 wins in 2 years. The guy sucks. Okay, let's just call it what it is. I don't see it that way. I'm looking at the job that's being done. I don't yell at the roofer while the guys are pouring the foundation and things like that. So I think that when you look at the types of players they brought in, they've focused on character. Right now, this year has been tumultuous, from plantar fasciitis to surgeries to ACLs to Zach Wilson's mom. I mean, it's been up and down and all around with the stress of this season, and the team has stayed together. We've heard nothing as far as fractures, nothing, not even our ravenous, sneaky beat writers have been able to find anything that insinuates that this team and this staff have fractured with one another, that they're not on the same page. They're not all focused on the same direction. And that alone is the culture shift. You can get through anything if you all stay together. Once you start Sheldon Richardson, Brandon Marshall fighting and creating factions on the team, then it's over. It's over. It's never going anywhere. We haven't seen that, and I think that's a testament to what Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh are doing here. One last thing, if you saw when Robert Saleh was in the locker room on that TV, you heard the way the team cheered for him when he came on the TV, and I think that says it all. That says it all. Frank, you have any thoughts on the culture? What are you seeing over here at One Jets Drive?
I think, the thing I've said is that we have to pray that Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, and Zach Wilson are the men for their respective jobs. If those 3 work out, probably everything else is going to work out. And it seems so far that I think that it's looking like that's the case. The players play for Saleh. I mean, that's, one of the main jobs of the head coach is to have the players love playing for him and buying into his system. And I think from what you saw with that and everything else you hear coming out of there, that's what's going on. They do. And you've seen what Joe Douglas has done. Joe Douglas has done they're buying in. They're buying into the program. Now, we don't have the talent. We have basically a 0-win team last year. We were basically going to have 0 wins last year, pretty much. We were surprised to get 2. We have a 0-win roster. And then, all of the subtractions and additions we made to improve it. And then you have to minus out all the injuries. And that's our roster level. And that's why we're losing so much. But even with that, we doubled our win total from last year. And so, that's progress. You got to think that. And look at all the trades that Joe Douglas has made. He turned Chris Herndon into a 4th-round pick. He turned Daniel Brown into a potential starting right guard for years to come, maybe. And at least a starting right guard for this year. Daniel Brown, a special teams nobody that couldn't even make the Chiefs practice squad. They didn't even put him on their practice squad. They said, get out of here. We don't need you, Daniel Brown. So why did they acquire him? I don't know. But he turned somebody with that level of talent into a starting right guard. So, so I think so far and look at his draft from 2021. Joe Douglas, which is the first one where Gase was not involved. Joe Douglas's 2021 draft is the first one where Adam Gase was not involved. And look what he did. So and that's the culture. Joe Douglas is going to bring in the right players. Coach Saleh and the coaching staff is going to coach up these players, and then the players are going to go out there and play hard, and they have been playing hard. They're just not good enough right now. And so that's the culture. I mean, we're seeing it. We're seeing it. It's happening. I think it's happening. It's the best it's been since Herm Edwards, I think.
Yeah, well, I agree. And I think, I think that most people who are looking at it objectively, not wanting the whole cake right now in their first bite, I think can see it. There's changing going on over here. Now, will it work ultimately to our goal of being a championship team? Who the hell knows? But you got to start somewhere, and it has begun. The way that we've done it in years past is just to go out there and spend the most money, and that has not worked for 30 years. So at least we've done something different. You want different results, try something different. And we've been doing that. Just real quick before we bring on Y2K Raw Power says I've inspired him to get an RV. Well, let me just tell you, if you have any questions, go ahead and write to me on my email, Raw Power. I'm happy to help. Just know I rarely reply the minute that you send it. It just doesn't work like that. But I'm happy to help anybody. If you have any questions, throw them at me on my email. I'll get to you, and I'll help you out any way I can. I can say this: I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Now, it has its downsides like anything else, but you're not going to sell your house, so that's even better. But RV life and traveling in an RV it gives you so many options to get to places that you normally wouldn't get, and I fully support it. So let's talk about this week's game. Let's bring on our buddy here, Frankie, and maybe my internet will get better when Y2K comes on. He has that effect on me. Touch. So let's say hello. Are you ready over there? What's that?
How we doing?
Okay. I kind of froze there for a minute. So are you good, Y2K?
I'm good. Oh, Frankie,
Yeah.
I got something for you.
I'm good, Frankie. Yeah. How are you so far? We're in.
Frankie, this one's for you. It's a small world after all. All right, I'll stop there.
Oh, I see what you're doing, Adam. God damn you.
Had to.
Yeah. So, well, that was good. Look, man, and that's patience, Frankie. He sat there, he had it. You made your comment, and he had it in his back pocket, waited till the right moment, and jabbed it in your chest. That's the way to do it.
That was a way homer. You ever
so,
hear that?
Y2K.
We
play What's that?
Sorry, Greenbean. I was going to say, do you ever hear of a way homer?
No, go ahead.
A way homer is a joke that you don't get until you're on your way home.
Oh, way homer. See, we call those joke grenades. In the comedy world, the comedians call that a joke grenade. You throw it, you leave, and it blows up later. You know what I mean? But yeah, way homer. I like that. So, Frankie, Y2K is gonna show us why it is that we think we're probably going to dominate the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that's what you said, right? So, number one, let's start with what's our history with this team? As we know, we played the Eagles this year, and the Jets have never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. We went into that game feeling good, and we walked out with that record staying intact. So what do we look like against the Buccaneers? And let's start with that.
Yeah. So if we look at the history, the Jets have their best winning percentage against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of all NFC teams. Right there. Perfect cause for optimism, right? The Jets in their history are 10-2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, the last time they played, the Buccaneers did win 15-10. But prior to that, the Jets had won 8 straight games going back to 1985. So the only 2 years that Tampa Bay has beaten the Jets are 1984 and 2017.
Wow. So now look, let's be real here. We all know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, traditionally, they have had their moments, but traditionally they have been a bottom rung team for longer stretches than they are one of the better teams. Even recently, they had the number 1 overall pick. They chose Jameis Winston. And while he's had some exciting, really good football, they couldn't do anything with him. They couldn't get out of the cellar. And they went and got Tom Brady. He brought Gronkowski, and they did have some stuff there. And now they're considered one of the better teams in the NFL. But that was not the case just 2 years ago. So I think that's why our record against them might feel the way that it does. But so what are we what are we walking into here? Like, where do they stand offensively? Y2K, we'll start with that, and then maybe some reasons for why they are the way they are. What do they look like?
Well, we look at a couple of things here. It's just a high-powered offense. 401 yards per game, second in the league. 29 points per game, second in the league. 3.7 touchdowns per game, that's a league high. They're second in third down conversion, which is a stat I always find very interesting. And, if you talk to most football fans, say, what's the real strength of the Tampa Bay offense? They'll say the same. They'll say the same player. But I really think this offensive line with 3 Pro Bowlers on it is really what makes this thing go. Brady is the least sacked quarterback in the NFL. He has played behind great offensive lines his entire life. Let's be fair about it. He gets time to throw. When he has time to throw, we know what he does. But Tristan Wirfs, Ali Marpet, and Ryan Jensen, they are the backbone of that offense. That's why Leonard Fournette was able to do what he was able to do before he went on injured reserve. And those are some of the main things that I'm looking at. Now, no Chris Godwin. We'll talk more about Godwin later on tonight, I'm sure. Right. Mike Evans is on the COVID list. That's a big loss for them. Antonio Brown is somebody I was really concerned about in this game. I think most of us were, but he hasn't practiced this week. He's got an ankle injury. So at that point, if we're not looking at Brown, who are we looking at? Rashad Perriman, Jalen Darden, Scotty Miller. I mean, and I think it's going to be a lot of tight end action. I could see them using 2 tight ends, even 3 tight ends in some spots because they have some good tight ends on this team.
Well, that's good news because we've been able to stop the tight end without any issue all year. That's one of our strengths of this defense, right? We tight end. Who cares? Well, we bring all the tight ends. We'll stop them.
Tight end.
Gronku. Think about OJ Howard.
Right. So
OJ Howard is their 3rd tight end. Think about it.
Yep. Cameron Braid has 3 touchdowns.
They're stacked. They're stacked. So as far as, like you said, so no Godwin, no Mike Evans, maybe no Antonio Brown. That would elevate Rashad Perriman. Many might recognize that name. He was our wide receiver last year. We went and signed with Detroit. They cut him. He went down to Tampa and all of a sudden looks good again with Tom Brady. But maybe that was just the one play I saw a highlight of. What does he look like down there so far? Anything worth worrying about? And how do you think he's going to feel playing the team that let him go in the offseason this year, Y2K?
Well, I saw that he put out a tweet 3 days ago. He just came off the COVID list with a let's go like that. It was like 20 O's or something like that in the tweet, right? So he joined the team. I'll just give you the stats on what Rashad Perriman has done so far. Week 10 was his first game. Game was against Washington. The game, by the way, Washington did defeat Tampa Bay in, which I thought was interesting that Washington's like the one bad team that's beat Tampa this year. He did nothing in that game, didn't really play. Against the Giants, he had 4 targets, 2 catches, 19 yards. Not very exciting. Then against Atlanta, week 13, then he had 3 targets, 1 catch, 5 yards. And then against Buffalo, 2 targets, and one of those was the 1 catch he had in the game for 58 yards and a touchdown. So if you look at the overall stats, he's been in 3 games, 82 yards, 1 touchdown. And he's had a total of 9 targets in those 3 games.
Yeah. Well, that seems like, it seems like his whole year last year. That's what it felt like over here. Well, until Flacco came in anyway, then he looked like a competent wide receiver again. But so Y2K, what do you think? Look, their wide receivers are down. They have a super strong offensive line. Brady tends to play behind good offensive lines. Numerous reasons for that. One of them being they tend to let people hold so they can protect the NFL's most valuable commodity. But that all aside, he does have the ability to make no names into somebody's, this Tom Brady character. Do you think that our defense has any chance against these guys with the injuries? I mean, look, they're giving us a shot here. Do you think this could be a potential trap game as far as our defense versus their offense?
I think the Jets, absolutely, their defense can stop the Tampa Bay offense for one simple reason. Ashton Davis is returning. How much more confidence can you have? That's
everybody's favorite. Everybody loves Ashton Davis. I haven't heard a single bad thing about him.
No, just like Kyle Wilson, pretty much on that level. But I am glad John Franklin Myers is off the COVID list. That does make a difference. I haven't heard anything about Quinnen, but he hasn't been on the injury reports. So
I think he's still on the COVID list.
Still on the COVID list. So so JFM's got to do something. And Bryce Hall still hasn't been activated, I believe. So I think this is time for the defensive line to have that game, that they seem to have once a month. Like when they
This
play
is it.
Houston or somebody like
I
that.
can't. Well, I can't see it. Not against this offensive line.
No,
What-
I can't.
We can't. We didn't do that against Houston. How are we gonna?
But we
JFM
did do it.
that week. He did that week.
He made one play. All right.
We did do it against the Titans, and their offensive line wasn't very strong, but we did beat better teams in the Titans and Bengals. So maybe this is just one of those things. I mean, we happen to play good teams really well because they think they're just going to sleepwalk through us, most likely. I mean, that's more than, it's not because we rise to the occasion or anything. But Frankie, what do you think? Like, as far as our defense versus their offense, you see any shot in hell of us stopping Tom Brady?
I don't see how. I really don't. We are injured. We are injured. We have no linebackers. We have guys we signed off the street playing safety. I mean, now some of those guys aren't going to play. Ashton's coming back. I think even Elijah Riley's back. So even Pinnock may be our safety 3 in this game instead of a starting safety. So that's good. Feather him in. But still Elijah Riley's a guy who, again, we signed off somebody's practice squad and is our starting safety. So Tom Brady's, by all, I mean, anything can happen in the NFL. You never know. Maybe Brady has an off day. I don't know. Maybe their offensive line. I mean, their offensive line is so good. It makes it hard for me to believe we can stop their running game, their passing game, any game. How are we going to stop them? We can't stop anybody. Every really good offensive line we faced, they've killed us. The Colts, the Eagles, the Patriots. Every great offensive line has made us look like we're not supposed to be in the NFL. So
no, I want to point out with you two right now. I think you are you're being very negative, and I don't appreciate it. No, I don't like this.
I would say objective. I would say objective. I mean, maybe I root for it. I root for it. I'll be rooting for him. But I just don't objectively see it. Their offensive line is so good. And then Brady's Brady. They have all the weapons. Even without their top wide receivers, they still have Scotty Miller and some other guy who was an Olympic guy.
Le'Veon Bell.
They do have Le'Veon Bell also. Could be the Le'Veon Bell revenge game. Who knows?
He's going to get a 1 yard touchdown from the one. He's going to have like one play in the game, just like Robbie Anderson did.
Yeah.
And he's going to score a touchdown on the goal line to shove it in our face.
They'll probably
run around.
They'll probably do some sort of flea flicker where it could be Le'Veon Bell throwing to Brashard Perryman and just really rub it in our face.
The Bell to Perryman kid.
Yeah, I see it. Right. Well, it's like Roger Santana is saying right now. Roger Santana has a comment. He says, I have no expectations. And I think that's the best way to do this. Like if we play a good, fun game, great, have a good time. But especially our defense to their offense doesn't look like a really that good of a matchup for us. Now, Y2K, as far as their defense, let's see if our offense can do anything. And that'll look, if their offense is kicking our ass up and down the field, but our offense can do something, that would be at least something to feel good about and have some fun. You see that happening? What do they bring into the game with their defense?
The news doesn't get a whole heck of a lot better here. It's the Todd Bowles revenge game.
Oh, him.
I mean, how are we going to block Vita Vea? I mean, our center for this game is Dan Feeney. You think Dan Feeney is going to block Vita Vea? Sorry, no, he's not. Vita Vea pushes back
let me
three
cross
guys
that
at
note
once.
off my list. Let's see. That one's made for me. Thank you very much.
Sorry, Adam.
Half the stuff I steal from you anyway. We all steal from each other. Let's be honest.
I don't steal anything.
I actually would have been a lot happier because Bruce Arians is on the COVID list, as we know. I would have been a lot happier if Bowles was the head coach, the acting head coach for this game. I think we'd have a better chance of beating them then. Just make Bowles the head coach. It's like kryptonite to him.
Well, you know what? Did they I think it might be Leftwich that would go get the coaching job with Brady there. Did they
interesting.
Did they commit to one or the other yet? Do you know? Did they commit to a
let's check this out. He tested positive 2 days ago. Tampa Bay Times could be back against Jets, so they have not committed anything, just that he's in isolation. So this is to be determined.
Interesting. As we know, there has been a lot of revisionist history majors running around talking about the Jets really blew it with Todd Bowles. He was fantastic head coach, and we just didn't know how to manage him, or so our players didn't know how to manage that head coach. We blew it. But the interesting thing is that the Jaguars have already asked for permission to interview Byron Leftwich, their offensive coordinator, for their head coaching job. And I do think I liked Leftwich all the way back when he was the Marshall quarterback. I thought he was a very good, underrated quarterback in the NFL, but he's been a good coach since. I think he might be the next coordinator that has a good shot of actually translating to the head coach position. I think that might be a good hire for them. And I think if Byron Leftwich is hired for the Jaguars job, obviously Trevor Lawrence is going to be the most valuable commodity. He has an offensive mind, and that's when I think they draft Evan Neal, the tackle, to help protect Trevor Lawrence, who's been chased all over the place this year. I think that would be a good move for the Jets, if you can imagine that, if they hire Byron Leftwich. If they hired Todd Bowles, they would be looking for some sort of linebacker or defensive tackle or something like that, some tweener backer. But Frankie, you mentioned Vita Vea. You don't think that our offensive line can stop him? Do you think he's going to ruin our running game, or would you just run away from him? What do you think you got going there with where he is concerned?
I mean, Vita Vea is a game-changing player against any offensive line, and as good as we've been, we also have Feeney in there now. So good luck, Dan Feeney. And then you have people like Ndamukong Suh and all of their linebackers. I mean, they are just a dominant defense. I mean, you could say Todd Bowles is a defensive genius, but he's got incredible players on his on his defense. So, yeah, I mean, we probably could. We in all actuality, we have a better chance of passing on them than running on them. They're a very stout run defense. They're a 3-4. They have great defensive linemen and great linebackers. But their defense secondary has had injuries. They normally do have a great secondary also, but they have guys out and banged up. And I don't know if Sherman's playing. I don't know if Murphy Bunting's playing. No, these guys they're not. So
Murphy Bunting is out. Jamel Dean is on the COVID list. So yeah. And also we can't forget Shaq Barrett, sprained MCL. He 10 sacks, 9 tackles for a loss, and 3 forced fumbles. Yeah. He may be the most dynamic defensive player. So
that's a key loss. So I think we could probably throw on them more. So if I were LaFleur, I'd come up with a plan that was like throw to run. So loosen him up with the pass and then hit him with Michael Carter. That would be my plan.
Probably the right idea. Tampa Bay is third in the league against the run, giving up 87 yards per game. So the way to get on this defense is to throw. However, we've seen the Jets offense, I think, if they're most successful when the run sets up the pass. So this is a situation where you really have to take some chances. Michael LaFleur is really going to be put to the test here on how to game plan to maximize this offense. It's going to be interesting what he does.
All right, so let me get to this. Now, obviously, we know we're dancing, we're sticking, we're moving, but we know what we're really walking into this week. We're walking into one of the best teams in the NFL with the quarterback who has made a career out of rubbing our faces in dog shit for 20 years or so. Takes great delight. He said that the worst loss of his career was when we went up there, the Rex Ryan led Jets in 2010, and beat them in their own house. He said it took him a solid year to get over, and it was the worst loss of his career, at least in the interview that I heard back then when he said that. So he's still trying to make us feel it for that. This is maybe his last opportunity to play us, unless we should meet them in the Super Bowl or something like that. So I think that Brady is going to want to use the Jets to let everybody know, I own this team. If there's a team in the NFL I own, it's this one. No matter what I'm wearing, no matter who my team is, they literally can't stop me. And I think it's going to happen here. Now, the core piece to this, which is most important to me, and I'll start with you, Frankie, and then I want to hear Adam's take as well. Do you want to win this game? As we know, there's been a lot of debate back and forth. The Jets, as far as the most bang for the buck in a game at the end of the season for draft pick flippage, We know that the Jacksonville game was that. We would have moved up a solid 2 positions and really entrenched ourselves up there in the top. Now we're at 4 with the potential to slide backwards. Do you guys want to win? And Frankie, again, you first. Do you want to win this game? And if you do, why?
Yes, of course. I always want to win. You play to win the game. That's the way it goes. You don't play just to play it. You play to win the game. Now, I understand that, the draft position and all that, but winning would mean some groups and a lot of our players did something great. Maybe Jason Pinnock plays out of his mind and has 2 pick sixes or something, or Bryce Hall has a pick 6 and the defensive line comes out of their coma and sacks Brady 5 times. In order to win, we would have to see some personnel play really well and maybe we realize, okay, we got a building block. We got Jason Pinnock as a safety building block. We got LD. Maybe the offensive line plays out of their mind and gives Zach all day to throw. And we go, oh, wow, look at LDT and AVT. They're really improved. They're building blocks. Look at Zach. Zach puts up a 400-yard game. Can you imagine if Zach Wilson puts up 400 yards on the Buccaneers? Holy smokes. And then we go, wow, do we got something here. And we just happen to win the game. That's more what I'm looking now. If a lot of that stuff happens and we lose, 31-30 or something, then I'm also I'm not unhappy about that. But it's more about you always want to play to win the game. You always want the players to play as hard as they can and being, there to win. And then it's all about what are our people doing in terms of the building blocks on our team, et cetera. You're making
Adam.
This is very confusing what you're doing, Green.
I feel like I'm on the Brady bunch.
You forget who you are, right? When you move over, you're like, wait a minute, what am I saying? Wait, what is this? What the hell?
Which of our photos is the balls? 1, 2, or 3?
Yeah. So, Adam, before you answer, I just want to acknowledge there is a lifelong Bucs fan in the chat, and I want to thank you for being here. We always love when other fans pop in and chat with us in a respectful manner. Sometimes people come and they just try to be trolls, and we don't really acknowledge that too much. But he says, I'm a lifelong Bucs fan from 76. Leftwich going to Jacksonville would be a bad move for him, as they will want win now mentality. And honestly, I think it will ruin him. Todd probably will stay. I think that the word on Todd Bowles, while he has a positive reputation, he was overwhelmed as a head coach. It wasn't just the Mike McCagnon stuff. That didn't help. But Todd Bowles was overwhelmed. I think that he may get another shot, but I would be surprised if it was so quickly. And also, I'd be surprised if he wanted to. Working under Bruce Arians, which is where Todd Bowles has had the most success. I mean, that's where he came from in Arizona as well. He worked under Arians. I think Todd might like where he is, what he's doing, and let me do this. I'm great at it. So, but that's an interesting take about Leftwich, Kane and Ishir. I appreciate you being here, and thanks for that. That's it's going to be interesting to watch what happens with Leftwich, because I do think he'll be a good head coach. So, Adam, what do you think? Do you want to win this game?
Do you want me to be diplomatic, or do you want me to be raw here?
I want you to be yourself. Whatever. If you're not wearing pants if you're not wearing pants right now, that's just what it is. That's today's day and age. You don't have to. Whatever you got, bring it to the table, buddy.
Yeah, it's not snowing in Virginia right now, so yeah, we're all good. I want to destroy this team. I want to beat the hell out of them. After living in Boston for a while, I went to college in Boston. I had to deal with it there. I'm tired of this national following of every other tweet. I'm tired of seeing the word GOAT. I'm sick of it. I don't want to see it again. Brady is the one athlete I don't want to see leave sports on his terms. I want him carried off. I don't care if we do it or somebody else does it, but I am sick and tired of being a punching bag, especially to him. And to throw in Todd Bowles, who I couldn't stand, pretty much from the end of season 1, I knew he had to go. I knew it.
Right.
I want to beat this team. I know it's a long shot. If we played them 100 times, they might win 99. But you know what? If this team can keep it competitive late and plant some doubt in Tampa Bay, get the fans behind them, If they could find a way to, this would be a trademark win that could really propel them. I'm not a big believer in momentum carrying over from one season to the next. I like to say everything has momentum when it's going downhill. But I think this is a game that can galvanize a team this young and a coach this young. We know what they think of this coach. And if you have any questions about the coach-player dynamic, watch the post-celebration video when Robert Saleh appeared on the screen and they went crazy. Those players want this guy as their coach. They believe in him. And I think this is an opportunity for them to make a statement, even if they don't win, but keep it close early. You know how Washington stayed close in that game against Tampa Bay? They took advantage of the early Tampa mistakes. They picked off Brady twice in the first half. Get to him. Play your freaking balls off. You never know what can happen in this league. This is an opportunity. Go take advantage of it.
Yeah, this is the game, man. Like, when you talk about, bringing it all, leaving it all in the field. I mean, look, you got 2 games left for this incarnation of the New York Jets. There are some guys that are still playing for their careers, for their jobs. If this is the game, man, go out there and see how you compete. See how you as a man match up to the GOAT and his underlings. You know what I mean? It's like a secret little organization of an evil wizard and his gremlins. That's how it looks like to me. I want to beat this team too. Now, chances are we're not going to, and that's fine, but I'm with it. I think I would love to see the Jets win out, unless they're like resting their starters and all that kind of stupid stuff. I don't want to win those types of games, but for something, while I agree that it doesn't carry over, like momentum doesn't carry over to the next season, I do think it'll be a nice cap for this season as they go into the offseason. Like I've said in my recent podcast, believing that the season was for something, not just to walk off, licking your wounds, so to speak. It's like, hey, man, we did something there. Like, there's reason to work. We're on to something here. And I think that can be incredibly valuable when you talk about that with guys like Zach Wilson, Michael Carter, Elijah Moore, ABT, Michael Carter II, Eccles, Bryce Hall, those types of guys. I think it can really show, like, hey, man, we are the young guys that are going to break this Jets curse thing. We're close. We're there. We're on to something. And I think that would be beneficial. So I'm trying to find that clip. Before we end today, I'm gonna show that clip of us in the locker room. I did a little thing. I trimmed it down. It's like a 5-minute clip, but I trimmed it down for everybody, and I'll get it to you guys before the end of the season. So Paris says, I could care. I think he means care less about winning these last 2 games. Drafting at number 3 is more important. I want the Jets to get the best players possible. We can all root for the Jets players to do well. And I get it. I do. Like I've said before, I've been firmly entrenched in the tank the last few years for sure. I mean, at the end of the year, I'm like, I don't know why we're trying to win these games. Last year was most impactful. I really wanted to get that worst team ever thing. I think we deserve it. Don't we? We deserve to have that record as the worst team ever. I think we should own that moniker, and we didn't, and I was very saddened by it. But as far as the draft picks are concerned, I think, we still don't know how the draft is gonna shake out. The quarterbacks haven't done their rise thing yet. Let's say Davis Mills comes out the last 2 weeks and just has 2 incredible clunkers. All of a sudden, the Texans are looking, you know what? Maybe we do use our highest asset that we've had in a while on a quarterback. Maybe the best quarterback in the draft is still there. Who knows? And I think that Detroit could consider one, and I think teams will be wanting to trade up for one. So I think there's a lot of options. I'm not so concerned with it this year, but I get what Paris is saying, and you're not alone, buddy. Not alone. So we're picking at 4 right now. No, but draft aside, I want to talk about Chris Godwin real quick. Do you think, Watch UK, I know you've been looking into this, before we get into any draft stuff, Chris Godwin has been on the lips of Jets fans for a while now. Last year, we had hoped, I was one of them, I hoped that he would shake loose and that we might go down there and grab him in free agency, but they franchise tagged him. Do you see them doing that again? What's the energy around Chris Godwin and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? You think they're going to let him go? And if they do, would you want to sign him? What do you think?
Well, to answer this part first, I really don't see him getting franchised. The estimated franchise tag number for a wide receiver this upcoming year is $19.2 million. Now, as good of a player as Godwin has been, coming off such a severe injury, I can't see Tampa Bay franchising him for a second year in a row. It's just not going to happen. They only have $32 million in cap space. They have some, but they don't have a lot. I can't imagine they're going to use more than half that space on a guy who's coming off an ACL tear. They're going to try to extend him or they're going to let him go. Now, if they let him go, and I think if I had to bet on one likely scenario, it would be a 1 year prove it deal if they could avoid the franchise tag. If he goes, though, I would be very interested in him, but that's about a 9-month recovery time. He's probably not going to be ready until about September. And I think with this offense, I think that's just cutting it really, really close. I really don't. The healthy version, I would be all over. This version, coming off an ACL tear, it really makes me nervous. And I did read an article on Bleacher Report, and there was one insider, won't mention him by name, but there was one insider. He has 2 destinations that he thinks Godwin could go to. One is the Chicago Bears. The other one, not going to like it, is the New England Patriots. So if one of those teams wants to take a chance, I think at this point we need guys with high floors. If the guy isn't like a Pro Bowl player, I can live with that. But I want somebody at this point who can be reliable. I want a plug and play guy. And at this point, after that injury, Chris Godwin is not that guy.
It's a shame because he kind of was. You know what I mean? Yeah. Frankie, what do you think about the Chris Godwin thing? Number one, do you see him shaking loose, or do you see an extension maybe? And if he does shake loose, are you into the Jets grabbing him or not?
Well, I can't see how he doesn't shake loose. I mean, they can't keep signing all their players every year. It's got to catch up to them at some point in terms of the salary cap. And they have plenty of guys. I mean, we've seen Tom Brady make it work with any configuration. You give him Randy Moss, it works. You give him 2 tight ends, it works. You give him Wes Welker and this one and that one, and it works. So I don't think Chris Godwin, as good as he is, I don't think he's vital to their success. So at that cost, I don't think they're going to retain him. So he'll probably be on the market. Now, whether he wants to come here, I think he's going to have plenty of suitors, including the Patriots. Patriots do need wide receivers. So I don't think we're currently an attractive destination for people. I've been talking to some folks on my channel about, well, what about Devontae Adams? And I'm like, why would Devontae Adams want to come here? I mean, number one, it's going to cost a lot of money, but also, why would he even want to come here? He could go anywhere. He's going to come here. What? Why? And so, now, so we're not exactly an attractive destination just yet. I think we will develop into one in a few years, but we're not right now. So I just don't see it as a fit. I would love to have his talent, and I wouldn't mind necessarily waiting if the injury caused his market to dry up and the price we had to pay was waiting for him, till September. I wouldn't mind it, especially if we bring back Braxton. We need to bring back Berrios, I think. And if we can, we should bring back Jamison Crowder if we could. Now, if we have those two, and then we have to wait for Chris Godwin, all right, now we got a room. And that's the price we have to pay as teams aren't certain when he's going to come back. But I think even with the injury, ACLs these days are not that big of a deal. Usually, every injury is not the same, but ACLs, people usually come back and are pretty much the same as they were these days. So I think he's going to have plenty of suitors. I don't see us really having a shot for his services, but I'd love to add him, especially if we cover ourselves by getting at least one of 2 of Braxton or Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, I gotta say, I am also of the thought that Braxton Berrios needs to be brought back. I'm not the biggest fan of. Look, Keelan Cole has been an amazing, leader, and his impact on that side of things has been undeniable. You even see in a lot of the locker room speeches after wins, it's him. It's Keelan Cole that's the guy kind of responsible for uplifting and all that positive energy stuff. And I think that definitely has value, but I've been disappointed with him overall. He did make a couple just amazing catches, but still, feast or famine. I'm just not into feast or famine guys. I want guys that can help the quarterback consistently. But I think Berrios and Crowder, I know it's weird and I know it's a long shot with Crowder, but I think that I really do hope that they make at least a swing. Like, hey, Jameson, just stay where you are. We'll give you, it's a mid-range contract kind of a thing. 2 more years, just stay here. Zach loves you. And let's see where it goes. Because I do think that he's at least an average wide receiver. I think slightly above. And when he's on, man. And you can trust him, most of the time.
He's trustworthy.
Very few drops. Yeah.
I mean, Braxton and Jameson are like the same. They're good route runners, good hands. They're not going to cost you, elite wide receivers money. And they're just good guys to have on. I'd say let Cole go. Bring those 2 back if you can. And then see what else you can add either in free agency or in the draft. I would love to get a guy like Treylon Burks, but he's probably going to go too soon for us. Or a guy like a Justin Ross, who's, I think, dropping. Yeah. A guy like that, maybe late, and then add him to the room so there's no pressure on him. He can come in, develop as he needs to. It's kind of the same thing as Mims. At this point, Mims is a kind of a project. And and that's a good room. That's a nice, talented room. It's perfectly fine with Elijah and Corey Davis and everything else.
And just to point out a thing or two about these receivers, you mentioned Keelan Cole being disappointing. He's had 43 targets and he's made 23 catches. That's basically 1 out of 2 balls thrown in his direction is a catch. That's not high enough.
Yeah.
It's not high enough. And I got to tell you, I was actually surprised to see that Jamison Crowder has 50 catches, which is the most on our team. I feel like Jamison Crowder has had the quietest season. I can't remember one big play that Jamison Crowder has had all season. He's had 2 touchdowns. It's like, he did? Yeah. I mean, he's making catches, but is he making an impact? And I like him, but
you could look at that too. You could look at that 2 ways, Adam. That could be something where that drives down his cost. And you could say, listen, we could get him on the cheap. We know what the quality he is, but other people looking at him are going to say, do I really want to pay this guy? And we could say, well, let's get him on the cheap. And we're going to have to pay Berrios because I think Berrios' stock is high right now because of everything he's doing on special teams.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to pay him if we want to bring him back. And maybe we could bring Jameson back on the cheap because he has had a bit of a quiet year. And now he's been out a few games. So, that could drive his cost down.
Well, here's my question about this. If we bring back Crowder and Berrios, they're really slot guys. Do we we have Corey Davis on the outside. Are we looking at Elijah Moore as ideally being an outside receiver? Or
Elijah's the one. The way I see it, Elijah is WR1. Okay. And Corey outside? Davis is WR2. If it's me, I got Elijah at the X. I got Corey Davis at the Z. And then I play around with Berrios and Crowder with the Y and the flanker. That's what I do. And I just say, listen, Elijah's our go-to guy. He's the man.
Well, and that was one of the issues I had early on. It seemed like they were placing him in situations that were not to his skill set, or at least to his strengths, and they were forcing him on the outside way more than I thought was appropriate. But as the season went on, he's really kind of shown that he's not a liability out there. He can play out there just as well as he can from the slot. And when you have receivers the way that we do, having more on the slot gives you the opportunity to keep him and Crowder on the field at the same time, as opposed to Moore or Crowder or Berrios, and then having guys they don't like as much, Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims alongside of Corey Davis. So I think it was I didn't love it. If I'm being completely honest, it was one of my issues, but at the same time, I think you're on to something there, Frankie. I think that wide receiver 1 doesn't have to look a specific way. And I think that that Elijah Moore has the ability to be that for us. And I think that would be a great move because you want your best players on the field. One of the things Morgan Moses said in that interview is that you get the best 53 on the field. He talked about that's what we have going on here. Best 53 play. And I think it's important, man. Like sometimes you keep good players on the sideline because of where they are or the types of position or the money that someone's making and all that bullshit. I think it's important that best 53 are on the field. And if that means that your wide receiver 1 is not 6'3", or whatever it is, so be it, man. So be it. And I think Berrios has absolutely come out of the gate and shown his value. I mean, he's been good the whole time, but I think this year he's really kind of come into his own. Now, is he a starting slot receiver? I don't know. I'll leave that to the staff, but I do think that when you combine his slot receiver ability with his special teams ability, I think he's somebody that should be a priority to keep. And in this clip that I'm about to play for you guys, you'll see that it looks like the coaching staff and the team might agree with that statement. So let's take a second and watch this clip real quick. And this is the locker room post-game.
Big day. Coach Middleton, yes, what an unbelievable effort.
Yes,
your inspiration at halftime, they got it there, man.
I appreciate your effort, man. Hell of a job. You should be proud of yourself.
I'm so proud of everybody. I mean, it's been a hell of a year watching this damn game, but whatever it freaking takes, offense, I freaking love the way y'all ran the ball today, man. That was freaking awesome. How about Braxton?
That was never happening with Adam Gase. Just saying.
Yeah, you see that with Adam Gase and no.
Yeah. Well, think about it. And look, as much as I don't like the way Jamal Adams did it, and I'll never feel otherwise about how we went about it, but I don't think he was lying about Adam Gase. I mean, we saw it in the middle of games, man. He was not talking to his team. It wouldn't surprise me to learn that Adam Gase never talked to the defense, was never in the defensive meetings and all that sort of stuff. And like Jamal Adams said, Adam Gase he allowed the coach to speak and do all. He allowed somebody else to do that shit. Greg Williams or Jefferson or whoever it was. Adam Gase was not that. You never saw the team rally around Adam Gase in the same way that they rallied around Robert Saleh. And you know what? If you listen to the beat, you would think that there are, maybe Saleh is under more scrutiny. Remember, who was it? Ken Azzaro came out with that article that he's on the hot seat already, on the Robert Saleh on the hot seat this year. So to see the team respond to him like that, I think it speaks volumes. And it's definitely not a scenario where the players are not behind the leaders of this team. You guys feel the same way? Frankie, what do you think of that clip?
I mean, that shows you everything. I mean, I think what we realize is that Adam Gase is probably a mediocre quarterback coach. That's what he is. And he was in way over his head. For some reason, he got to be an offensive coordinator and he got to be a head coach in Miami. And God knows why some people, fail forward, as they say, but, fail upward. And that's what happened with Adam Gase. He's probably a pretty good quarterbacks coach, and that's it, but somehow he failed upward and he wound up in a position where he was in way over his head. But I think what you see with Coach Saleh, he's not in over his head at all. He's managing everything. He's managing the media. He's managing the players. He's managing the pipeline. He's managing his relationship with Joe Douglas. He's exactly what we asked for. He's the CEO, head coach. He's exactly what we wanted and more. And I'm all in on Coach Saleh at the moment. And I think that clip just shows you he shows up on a video screen and they go crazy. That's exactly what you want. Exactly.
Yeah. They wanted to see their leader. They wanted to see his thoughts. You know what I mean? Like they want him to be proud of them. And that's a big deal. Adam, what'd you think of that clip? Did you feel the same way?
I wanted to stand up and cheer the first time I saw it. I was pumping my fists, man. I would have turned cartwheels, well, in my mind anyway, if I could. It's the head coach is supposed to be the leader at the end of the day. Now, we know he has a way of getting his players to play for him. They are for him. The only thing that we haven't really seen a whole lot of is how much we see him get angry at the officials. I think there's a lot of people who think that. I think the biggest criticism I see is that Saleh's probably too nice a guy. Well, we see him get angry at the officials over certain calls, but I don't know if we've seen enough of him maybe talking to a player. Maybe he just chooses to do that behind closed doors. with certain penalties, with certain mistakes, things like that. I am curious about how he deals with discipline. That's the side of him I want to know about. But I was thrilled with the hire when it happened. I'm not going to back out right now. I mean, I was pretty much, like I mentioned earlier, I really lost it for Todd Bowles towards the end of his first season. Even in the games they won, I thought there were too many games when the team, despite their talent, did not come out prepared. I thought they underachieved. I don't think that is a problem here. So I am firmly behind
Adam,
this
it's
coach.
funny. It's funny with Bowles, like you said. He was not the coach I wanted. When it was between him and Quinn, I wanted Todd Bowles. I said, yeah, clearly that's the one. I would rather Bowles than Quinn. But I got to tell you, as much as I tried to be positive, and I was, as soon as he hired Shane Gailey out of retirement, that was the first, I'm serious. I really went, oh, come. Like, why can't we get a guy who's like young, up and coming, like some forward thinking? Now, Shane Gailey's fine. He's a very well-respected offensive mind, and he did a good job here for the 2 years he was here. But that was the first. It didn't even take that long. I think that was the first week or so he was hired. I went, so it didn't take long for me to start giving up on Bowles, sadly. But yeah. So Daniel Faust, thank you. He said that this is his first Thursday thick of it. I've seen him around a bunch. I know him from the videos and stuff, but this is his first time with the Thursday thick of it. So glad you're here, man. I hope you're having a good time. And thank you for the $2. The $2. You haven't given us a question or anything there, but thank you nonetheless. If you have a question, put it in the chat. We'll try to get to it. We only have a few seconds left here. But anyway, if you have a question, we'll get it. So real quick, guys, we'll wrap it up with this. Adam, where do you think we're going to end? Where do you think you're going to end up with our draft pick selection? What number do you see us with the Jets first round pick, and who you taking where you are? What are you doing?
Who am I taking where we are? Well, the fourth spot seems to make a lot of sense. Looking at not only the strength of schedule, especially, I'm trying to break all of this down as much as I can. I don't think the sixth pick is going to hold up. I really expect to see Seattle win at least one more game, but I love seeing Carolina lose as much as they are. I mean, I think they're going to have 4 picks inside the top 40, which is just unbelievable. We are going to have far and away the most draft capital of any team here. Now, my thoughts on the first round are this. We're very divided over wide receiver in the first round. I, for one, am not into it. I don't think that is a primary need for this team. If there is a Jalen Waddle, if there's a Jamar Chase, great. From what I'm hearing, that is not the case. I want to address defense. The only exception is if there is an offensive lineman that you're in the right spot to take, such as Linderbaum. But again, I don't want to take a top 10 center. So for me, I want to address defense. Like if we could get an edge rusher and a guy like a Kyle Hamilton, I'd be in favor of it. Stingley scares the crap out of me with this injury history, especially a cornerback with foot injuries. Yeah. That is a scary, scary proposition. So for me, edge rusher and Hamilton, if that's the way it came down, cool. But I would love a trade down. I'd love a trade down and get like a Devin Lloyd or a Tyler Linderbaum later in the first round. So that's how I'm feeling right now.
Yeah. Interesting. I know the trade down thing, we haven't talked about it much. I'm grateful for that because I totally plan on sickening people with how much I'm going to talk about it after the season. So we'll get there. Frankie, where do you think we're going to end up with the Jets pick? And who you taking?
Well, I'm going to take the roundabout way to get to this, but I saw some comments in the chat about Colin Clownherd, and I wanted to make a point about Colin Clownherd. He owns the podcast network called The Volume. It's called Volume Podcast or something like that. And one of the podcasts that are on Colin Clownherd's podcast network is Kyle Hamilton's NIL deal podcast called Inside the Garage. So it's possible that a lot of Clownherd's negativity towards certain players could be that he approached them with business deals, say Zach Wilson on our team, and they said, no, thank you, Mr. Clownherd. I don't want to have an NIL deal with your stupid podcast network. And he's, butthurt about it. So that's one thing to keep in mind with these idiots like Clownherd. But back to the point is who I want is Kyle Hamilton, because I've listened to Inside the Garage, the podcast, and in addition to everything you see on the field, the dude he gets it. He's super smart. He gets it. He understands fan perception and all these things. And so I love Kyle Hamilton. I think he's one of a kind. Everything I read about him, there is no safety like him. You can get other safeties, but he's in a class by himself. So I like him. Like if we wound up with a Hamilton and a Karlaftis, a Hamilton and an Ojabo, okay, because you can't. I mean, I would love to get Hutchinson and Hamilton, but that's not realistic. Or a KT either. I don't think we can get them. But if I can get a Hamilton and a Karlaftis, I'm okay.
Yeah. Just saying, I'm sorry, but real quick, these teams that are perpetually in the cellar, they're not exactly known for making great football decisions. Never underestimate the ability of, say, the Detroit Lions to F up.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, if these guys fall in our lap, I mean, that's the beauty of having Joe Douglas too.
Never underestimate the stupid.
I mean, Joe Douglas isn't going to do Saquon Barkley at number 2. I mean, he's just not, because you could have got Nick Chubb in the second round and he took Saquon Barkley with the second overall. No good. He's not going to do that. So, we've seen his draft, maneuvering.
Interesting.
But I would grab me Kyle Hamilton first because there's just nobody like him in the whole draft. And then I would try to get an edge rusher too. And then I got to get me a tight end. And then I got to get probably more defense, linebacker probably. We have the worst defense in the whole league. That's the thing. I would love to have a Treylon Burks. I would love to have Jameson Williams. But the opportunity cost of picking those guys when you have the worst defense in the entire league by every measure, it's just too high of an opportunity cost for me.
Yeah. Well, look, it makes a lot of sense. And I think, when you look at, the Y2K's point about, the teams that are up there are known for making foolish decisions. I think that can't be understated. And there's a lot swirling around when you look at a team like Jacksonville, who looks like they're going to have the number 1 overall pick for the second year in a row. When you look at a team like that, their entire organization was rebuilt last year and is already blown up and has to be rebuilt. What is a new guy going to want? So there's a lot going on there. So trying to predict who they're going to pick, we don't even know who they are yet. So I think a lot can change. Again, the quarterbacks, there's the traditional end of season combine rise of the quarterbacks. It's going to happen. Now, will it go that far up to the top 5? I don't know, but a lot can change. But let me tell you this. I think that the Texans are going to win one more game. I think that the Jets are sadly going to lose out. And I think that we will get the 3 overall pick and we will get one of Thibodeau and Hutchinson. And if either one of them are there, I snatch them. And then wherever Seattle picks, I'm hoping for them to lose out too. That'd be so good, man. It'd be like just the best.
Well, who do you think Houston's going to beat? San Francisco or Tennessee?
I think they could beat either one.
They could.
They could.
Well, San Francisco may have to play without Mr. Garoppolo, and depending on your point of view, that could either be a big plus or a big minus. He's got the thumb injury, so
right.
Trey Lance, who knows? Trey Lance could light it up, or he could stink it up.
Who did the Texans just beat this week? Was it the Chargers? Right?
Yeah.
Yep. Chargers.
Yeah, they weren't supposed to do that. So who?
Man.
Yeah. So, I mean, that made me very happy. I'm like, holy cow. I mean, now I wanted Detroit to hold on. They didn't. I wanted Seattle to lose. They did. So we got some good stuff going on out there. The Panthers lost, like we discussed. That's good. But I think if the Texans can win one more game, I think we get the 3rd overall pick, and that would be fantastic. And if we do, I have high hopes that one of Thibodeau and Hutchinson will be there. If they are, we grab one, in my opinion. But I am with Frankie on the Kyle Hamilton thing, and I'm with Y2K99 on the trade back thing. It all depends on what you get, and go from there. Like, think about this. What if you have a trade offer tentatively for, let's say you're at the 6th overall pick, and you got a team, they want to give you next year's 1st and a 2nd to move up to 6, and you're going back to 12. You take Hamilton with your 4th or 3rd or 4th overall pick, then you trade back, you gain the other picks, and you get Ojabo at pick 12. Not a bad first round, my friends. Not a bad first round. Or Devin Lloyd. Or at that point, you can take anybody, and I don't think you'd be reaching as far as the guys we're talking about, the Evan Neals, the Kenyon Greens, the Linderbaums, the Devin Lloyds, the wide receiver. You can do anything, and I'd be, for the most part, happy with it. So we got a lot of options, guys. Don't get mad if we win. Don't get mad if we lose. But before we go, I want to give you guys an opportunity to let us know what you have going on right after I say, don't forget about the contest we have going on here, guys. We are giving away a T-shirt of your choice for 3 winners. One of those winners will also get the Manscaped Ultra Smooth Pack. All you got to do to enter is subscribe right to this channel. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, if you like us, we're here all the time. We're doing this stuff with respect for other teams and their fans. Give me a sub if you feel like being nice, and then you go over to my other channel, Full-Time Coaster Tour, where I travel around taking my kids on every roller coaster in the country and document it for you. You give me a sub there, and you are entered into the contest. When I hit 5,000, we're going to give that stuff away. And don't forget, there will be stickers involved as well. So that might be the breaker for everybody. Oh, there's stickers involved? Okay, I'm in. So I'll give you some stickers as well. But, yep, all you got to do is sub. So, Frankie, what do you got going on, buddy?
Well, Frankie from Flatbush channel. We're trying to get it up to 1,000 subscribers. So if anybody hasn't been over to my channel, check it out. Jets content. I tend to do sort of longer form stuff. We use a lot of spreadsheets. We look at the data. We look at everything. If you check out my stuff and you like it, please subscribe. And then we go live on Sunday mornings, 11:30 a.m., Coffee with Frankie, and we look at all the latest stuff right before the game. And we come back at 7 p.m. Live again after the game for a little bit of a therapy session, see what happened in the game, what's going on, stuff like that. And check out my locals, Frankie from Flatbush.locals.com. We're trying to build up our locals community. I think locals is really the future. It's a combination like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube combo thing. So check that out. And those are the things.
All righty. Well, right on. Go to Frankie from Flatbush on YouTube. Great content. Sincerely, I personally love it very much. It's a completely different take, as far as the source of the information and the data collection and everything. You don't see it every day, and it's a special channel. And Y2K, what do you got cooking with your Jets fan club? Anything going on down there?
Well, I'm glad you used the word cooking, because during the divisional playoff round, we're going to be hosting our annual chili cook-off.
Oh, nice.
I hesitate to say that because I know that's just going to get the chat going again with, is chili a soup? That discussion's just going to go crazy again.
Chili's not a soup. What? What kind of nonsense is that?
Chili is its own category.
Right.
Chili's just a different
Exactly. Right, it is.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
It could be called meatloaf in the same way it can be called soup.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so we'll probably have, last year I think we had about 10 or 11 chilies that the group made. We just take them to one guy's house, and we've done them in different places. We've done it in churches and restaurants, but this year it's going to be a house party, and he's got a little tiki bar in his backyard with a swimming pool. So yeah, if it's cold enough, might even be a polar plunge involved. You never know. So we're definitely looking forward to the chili cook-off. And this week, we did this last time, so I thought we'd do it one more time. I am hosting Jets Trivia again this week for the Virginia Jets Club. And the grand prize is going to be like an old school Jets hat with the old airplane logo, like from the 60s, nice. Really old school logo, like gray and green. It's really, really nice. So if it's okay, I'd like to give you guys one trivia question to close us out.
Oh, yeah, I like it. What do you got?
All right. And let's see what the chat says, too. What Jet has made the most Pro Bowls? What Jet player has made more Pro Bowls than any other Jet in history? I'll give you
got an answer. I got one.
Yeah.
You got chat?
Yeah, let's take a look and see what they say. I think we're a little ahead here. So
I'll go with Kevin Mawai.
Oh, that was my answer.
Both said Mawai?
That was.
I got
that was my answer.
No surprise that go with offensive line.
Somebody gave. Yeah, I should have known that it was Go who would give the right answer because it's an offensive lineman. It is Winston Hill. Winston Hill, more than any other Jet made the Pro Bowl. So good job, Go.
who is our most.
Wait a minute. What era Jets is this? The 1960s?
Yes.
Yeah.
The AFL?
Yeah.
It's not the Titans.
That's sad. It's sad, isn't it?
We had to go back.
How many times did he get in there?
I think it was
how many times?
I think it was 9. I believe it was
Holy
either.
smokes.
I think it was 9.
That's
Yeah,
insane.
Mawai, I think was 7 or Mawai was close. Marvin Powell was close, and so was Nick Mangold. Like, it's really offensive linemen that really dominated it.
Yeah. How about Revis? Revis wasn't in the conversation.
No, Revis was behind a little bit, because he had his peak for a while, but then he got hurt and wasn't quite the same after that. Yeah.
Well, that's
So
pretty
I'm talking
good.
about
Go
Justin
Hanger.
Fitzgerald anyway, so.
Go Hangard got it right. That is the New York Jet with the most Pro Bowls is Winston Hill, a very recent inductee to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I got to go see his bust there just this past year. I was there in what do they call it? Induction weekend, and we were able to broadcast live. Well, not live, but I did a recording inside the Hall of Fame, and they gave me a tour and everything. That video is over at Jetnation.com's YouTube page. So we go over there and just look for the Hall of Fame thing, and you'll see me doing my thing inside the Hall of Fame. And also Alan Faneca, a Jet for a few years, was also inducted this year. This is the year that Klecko gets in, by the way. We got to make as much noise as we can about it. I have videos coming out. I'm waiting for the end of the season, and we are going to do this thing. Klecko was very close last year to finally getting in the Hall of Fame. He was beaten by one person at the very end, a wide receiver from the Raiders. And this is the year. They're finally giving him his consideration that he deserves. And I think he's going to be the guy to get in this year, and that would be amazing. But, hey, everybody in the chat, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank Frankie and Adam and Jeremy in the background. I didn't bring you on tonight, buddy, but you guys can follow Jeremy at NFL Chaos. With Jeremy on YouTube, he's gonna drink hot sauce, a whole tablespoon of the hottest hot sauce that he can find. When he gets to 200 subs, so all you got to do, go over there and sub, and let's watch his bald head perspire before our eyes. We're going to see it come right out. So Jeremy's going to do that. Please support him as well. And thanks to everybody for being here. Don't forget, in the description, we have DraftKings Sportsbook. If you want to go ahead and get involved in that, they're now coming to New York. You just click on the link, tell them Green Bean sent you, and that would be appreciated as well. But everybody have a good night. Thank you two again. We will see you next time. Here it comes, and there we go.
Yeah, here we come, baby. Here we come. Here come the Jets, baby.
You want to run or you want to duck down? You want to duck, just go over and get onto the bench and stay there.
You play to win the game.
My message for the fans, we're all frustrated with where we are right now.
Jets, Jets, Jets.